A dark-haired girl is hit on the cheek with something. She winces in pain. A barn in which pigs grunt. A cage in which sits a black-haired man is suspended from the ceiling. A girl with dark pink hair is standing not far from her. She curses the dark-haired one. Look at yourself. And you still want to become Murong Feng's heir and bride. You are not worthy of him. Ugly pig, the girl shouts. The dark-haired woman, whose body is covered with bruises and scratches, reaches out to the bars. Tears appear in the girl's eyes. A thin trickle of blood flows from her mouth. Barely moving his tongue, the dark-haired man says to his abuser, "Sister, sister, I will be good. Just don't hit me. I beg you." A girl with dark pink hair is holding a fiery rope in her hand, with which she has been mercilessly beating the dark-haired man all this time. She is not going to stop. The girl screams furiously, "Shut up, it's all your fault, you are useless, idiot. You have always shamed our family. The entire Qing'an clan is laughing at you." An angry fury begins to beat the dark-haired man in the face with a rope. Qing'an City, Molo, Tianqi Land. Quite a peaceful and picturesque place with a lot of pretty houses. Here, almost everyone possesses the so-called spiritual power. Possession of Feng, the third family of Qing'an City. This is a modest at first glance house, near which there are 2 statues of menacing lions, designed to scare away uninvited guests. For centuries, the Feng family had tried to raise the perfect heir. Since childhood, the pink-haired girl belonging to this family has spent all her time, strength, and energy on cultivation. Through these efforts, she became the strongest spiritual master among all the Feng children. But the merits of the girl did not make her a favorite of the family. All members of the Feng family adored Wuxi, a not very intelligent, talentless girl who lacked spiritual powers. She is the direct heiress of the Feng family, engaged to Murong Feng, a young master. As a dowry, he will receive the Phoenix Omnipotence martial arts book. The pink-haired one can't believe that this idiot like Wuxi should become the wife of Murong Feng, this black handsome. The pink-haired one clenches her teeth in anger and burns her hated sister with a fiery look, who always got everything she wanted without much effort. The girl's eyes go beyond their sockets and begin to turn red. Looks like something bad is about to happen. A silent scream freezes on Vuxi's lips. Her sister begins to cry, in the literal sense of the word. Her figure is engulfed in flames, but it does not harm her. It's the girl's spiritual powers that she uses to taunt her sister. Shock. Another one and another one. Exhausted, Wuxi falls. She passed out from the pain. Or even worse. The pink-haired girl opens her eyes wide in shock. She approaches the cage in which Wuxi is locked and lightly touches her palm, trying to understand whether the girl is alive or not. Wuxi does not move. The frightened pink-haired girl runs out of the barn. It's not her sister's condition that bothers her at all. No. The fact is that the children of the Feng family are not allowed to harm each other. Those who violate this rule will be thrown out of the family. North Feng Manor. A bright blue beam from the sky, somewhat similar to lightning, hits the abandoned barn. Wuxi wiggles her fingers. She is alive. The girl opens her dark purple eyes wide. She sees a pig's snout in front of her. The animal looks at the Feng family member and grunts in satisfaction. Another pig approaches the cage. Together they begin to shake Wuxi's little prison. The girl leans her back against the iron bars and shouts, "Daddy, why is the first thing I see is a disgusting pig? Oh, everything hurts." The girl glances at her leg and sees terrible cuts. "Wounds from a whip?" Vuxi says in her mind. "I thought I died on the battlefield. And why am I in the pigsty?" Suddenly, the girl hears someone's steps. She sharply turns her head towards the door. The expression on her face is full of hostility and anger. Wuxi wonders what kind of bastard could have left her in such terrible conditions. Someone's dark blue shoes shuffle on the stone floor. The barn door opens. A girl wearing a light green kimono enters. She flies up to the cage and kicks Wuxi, but crawls back. A girl in a light green dress whose black hair is gathered in a neat bun shouts, "Don't you dare go against my lady! You must die!" Wuxi covers her face with her hands and squints. She does not understand what is happening. When the black-haired woman's fits stop, Wuxi gives her a hateful look. A black-haired woman, probably a maid, jumps back. She is shocked that the girl, after numerous tortures, is still alive. Somehow Wuxi jumps out of the cage and lands on one knee. With a sly smile on her lips, she says, "I died, but Yama sent me back and asked for revenge." The maid grits her teeth in rage. "You beast!" black-haired, decides to kill the girl for his mistress. With lightning speed, she pulls out a dagger from the sleeve of her kimono. She then jumps up and runs right at Wuxi, intending to stab her. But the dark-haired one doesn't seem to be too scared. She pulls a gun from the pocket of her thin blue robe. The girl points it at the black-haired man, pulls the trigger and shoots. The maid, as if hypnotized, freezes in place and does not even try to move aside or at least dodge the bullet. A moment later, a bullet hits her in the head. The black-haired one falls to the floor. Vixie stands over the dead girl and says, "Say hi to Yami for me, tell him." "Thank you." Then the girl looks at the gun and her eyes open wide in surprise. She cannot believe what is happening. The weapon literally melts in her hands. Wuxi curses. "What kind of old man?" Suddenly a white light illuminates her bloodied, shocked face. The girl looks ahead and makes a single sound. "Ah!" The picture before Vuxi's eyes is changing. Dark-haired finds himself in heaven. Someone's voice is heard from somewhere. "Woman, there you are." A lot of questions appear in the girl's head. Who is speaking? Are these glitches? And then Murong Feng, her fiancé, appears before Wuxi. The boy is dressed in a luxurious red kimono. In his hands is a fan. Murong smiles from the corner of his mouth and says, "Just wait for me. You are not allowed to die until I find you." The guy approaches the surprised girl, frozen in place with her mouth open, takes her by the chin and continues, "And don't look at other men." Murong flashes his red eyes and adds that Wuxi is of course not allowed to marry another man. After these words, the boy dissolves into the air. Only black smoke remains from it. The dark-haired man remembers his childhood. Her grandfather loved her the most. This gray-haired man told little Wuxi that he couldn't wait for her to grow up. But the girl's brothers and sisters simply hated her. They called Wuxi worthless and unfit, mocked and mocked her. The girl was really not very smart. For example, she ate from a dog bowl. She often did strange and sometimes stupid things. She often imagined that she had become a bird and could fly. It made others laugh. Wuxi snaps back to reality and puts a finger to her chin. She thinks about her current life. Her soul and body belong to two girls from different worlds, but with the same name. Wuxi decides to find out more information about the family of the one in whose body she is now. The first thing the girl realizes is that she found herself in another time. This is definitely not the 21st century in which she was a field medic. This world obeys spiritual skills, artificial and natural forces experienced by dead souls. Natural forces include weather elements such as wind, lightning, and ki, and also others by type of water, tree, and earth. Artificial powers come from supernatural worlds. They represent the powers of darkness, the powers of healing, etc. People who know how to control these powerful forces and use them to develop their spiritual skills are called spiritual masters. Wuxi purses her lips. It seemed to be all that the owner of the body knew about this world. Not very much, but the girl is going to fix this situation. She opens the barn door. The dark-haired man goes outside and surveys the area. Wuxi ponders the reason she survived the battle. Is it all just because the girl was a field medic and did enough good deeds? Rescuing the wounded? Okay, don't think about it right now, the dark-haired man says to himself. She strides confidently through the Feng family's garden. The servants discuss the girl. Look, the fool got out from somewhere. Well, she smells. Suddenly, Wuxi runs into her sister, a beautiful gray-eyed girl dressed in a pink kimono. Next to her stands a maid who is dissatisfied with something. Gray-Eye rushes to Wuxi. Sister, where have you been for the last 3 years? You're such a fool, you don't understand what's going on around you and you suddenly disappear. I was so worried. I thought it was our older sister. Wuxi does not listen very carefully to the gray-eyed man. She notices that her body is afraid of the girl. Dark-haired ponders, why does it react like that? Maybe the elder of the first owner of the body did something terrible to her. Gray-Eye notices the cuts on Wuxi's body and dramatically exclaims, Sister, your wounds. She takes the girl's hand and says with sympathy in her voice, Did Big Sister lock you in the pig pen? But Wuxi is not affected by her sister's behavior. If she was really worried, she would definitely find her in 3 years. But the girl decides not to show her true feelings, so she rushes to the gray-eyed man's neck. She says that their older sister tortured her. The maid shouts, It stinks so much! How dare you hug the lady? The dark-haired older sister turns her head towards the maid and stares at her with displeased black eyes. She didn't like that a commoner would allow herself to comment on a member of the Feng family like that. But the dark-haired one really smells bad. Gray-Eye tells Wuxi that he will take her to wash up. The girl smiles slyly from behind her older sister. After a few minutes, the girls find themselves near a red building. Probably this is the bathhouse. The maid opens the door for Wuxi and her older sister, then walks in herself. The gray-eyed man locks the door with a bolt so that no one outside the bathhouse will enter. Then she asks the maid to prepare hot water. The girl wants to take a bath with her sister. The maid obeys the lady. Girls bask in large vats of hot water. There is a partition between these so-called baths. The maid carefully rubs the delicate skin of elder sister Wuxi with a washcloth. The girl says somewhat angrily to her mistress, "Mistress, she is a fool. Bathing with her will only spoil Lingxi's water, and you know how rare this water is. We only have 3 small cups for the entire Feng family." Gray-eyed answers the maid no less aggressively. "You don't understand at all what happened. Wu Xin was unable to kill her and she ran away from the pigsty. As soon as the head of the family finishes all his affairs, he will know everything." Wu Xi hears this. The older sister of the dark-haired woman smiles slyly and adds that now they cannot get rid of this fool so easily. "You will have to wear it for a meeting with the head of the family and make an heiress." The maid starts laughing so hard that her cheeks instantly turn red. "You must be joking, ma'am. She is an idiot. The whole family will lose their honor if someone like her becomes the heiress." But Gray-eyed is not as simple as it seems at first glance. She explains to the servant that she wants to make her short-lived younger sister the heiress, because in the struggle for power, she will be much easier to defeat than the genius Wu Xin. The maid raises her finger and ponders aloud. "I think I understand, ma'am. You have great skills and you will protect Wuxi from the servants. The chairman will appreciate it. And when the fool is made the heiress, we will kill her and blame everything on Wuxing. Then the place of the heiress will go to you." Gray-Eye praises the maid for her cleverness. They both make fun of Wuxi, calling her a monster because of the scars on her face. The dark-haired girl, who hears everything perfectly, clenches her hands into fists, trying not to explode with anger. The girl looks at the water to distract herself from her thoughts and notices that all the wounds on her body magically disappear. Wuxi enthusiastically tells herself that Lingxi's water is incredible and removes toxins. It cannot be wasted. A dark-haired woman dives into the clear blue water with her head. The girl smiles sweetly. Now she feels just great. Suddenly, Wuxi's eyes widened. She has many questions about herself and her family. Does the heir have any advantages other than power? Why is everyone in the family willing to kill for this title? The girl gets out of the water. The only thing Wuxi understands for sure is that she is in danger. The dark-haired one looks at the water. Although Wuxi's body now contains a soul that is not at all stupid, this did not reduce the enemies. The girl decides that it is better to do nothing and pretend to be a fool, so she can survive. Wuxi remembers his grandfather again. His name is Feng Yuanji. He is the head of the Feng family, who will finish his business in 3 months and return to the estate. In the memory of the first owner of the body, the faces of the parents are blurred. She only remembers her father's name, Feng Ziyu. The girl rests her elbow on the table in the bathhouse and looks thoughtfully ahead. Other family members are the first and second uncles, as well as 2 older sisters and 1 older brother. All siblings are not from the main family. Fuxi, who has already left the bath, is sitting at its foot. The girl leans back a little and raises her eyebrows angrily. "I thought that Feng Wuxin would try to kill me again after she found out about the escape, but she has quieted down. Okay, until we forget. We need to collect herbs to strengthen the body," the dark-haired man says in his mind. After some time, she finds herself in a stone building with wooden windows, probably a kitchen. The girl prepares some concoctions on the stove. She takes the lid off the cauldron and adds something to it. Then the dark-haired man again scoops up some herbs with a small wooden vessel and says, "Chinese piper, goji berries." When Wuxi finishes making the medicinal concoction, she decides to taste it. The girl raises a cup with a drink to her lips. In the 21st century, Wuxi was a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine and even received a master's degree in the field. But now she is in the body of a 13-year-old girl, so she needs to take care of her safety. The girl finishes the concoction and puts the cup on the table with a characteristic sound. Tonight will be her last visit to the pigsty. The girl wants to do it to get her gun. Night is coming. The crescent moon peeks out from behind the clouds. Wuxi quietly opens the door of the pigsty and goes inside. The girl immediately grimaces from the incredible stench. She covers her nose with her hand. Well, it smells here. How could I stay in such a place for 3 whole years? And you are a beast, Feng Wuxin. Wuxi walks over to the haystack and leans into it. The girl thought for a second that her gun was right there. But no. Dark-haired begins to interrupt the entire barn, at the same time driving annoying pigs away from him. Feng family house. Wuxi pushes the red wooden door. What old man? Where did he go? It was definitely in my hand that night. Where did he go? Suddenly the girl falls on something and hits her head hard. A grimace of pain appears on her face. She rubs the back of her head. Suddenly someone's voice says, Well, what kind of idiot? Wuxi jumps up immediately, forgetting about the pain. The girl rests her hands on her knees and angrily asks, Who is here? She enumerates the possibilities. Could this be the handsome guy from the hallucination? But after a moment, the girl shakes her head in denial, trying to drive away these thoughts. The voice of the person who had just mocked her was filled with contempt, not sexuality. Someone's laughter is heard. Wuxi sits down on her luxurious bed but is in no hurry to go to sleep. It's no time to relax when there's someone in your room who can hurt you. Suddenly, the girl realizes that the voice may be coming from her body, no matter how strange it sounds. Wuxi's hands tightly grip the bedspread. Meanwhile, the voice continues to say, Idiot, there is a lightning bolt seal on your right palm, do you see? Wuxi stares at her palm in surprise, but doesn't notice any lightning there. The girl is angry. How dare this someone mock her and also deceive her? Wuxi jumps off the bed and shouts into the air, Liar, well, show yourself. The voice patiently ignores the girl's indignation. You can't see her, but she is there. Focus and try to imagine the shape of the seal. It is in the form of a red and white lightning in the center of the palm. Every muscle in Wuxi's face tenses up. It seems that she is about to burn her hand with a look, but nothing is visible yet. The girl's palm remains clean. Wuxi is annoyed by the absurdity of this situation. She already wants to throw it all away, until suddenly a red seal in the form of lightning really appears on her palm. Wuxi screams in surprise, Ah, what kind of old man? The voice tells the girl that for now only she can see this seal. To everyone else, it will become visible only when Wuxi becomes a spiritual master. I am inside your seal, continues the voice. Try to feel its power and you will be able to enter the hidden space. I'm on the 3rd floor. Dark-haired climbs onto the bed with her legs and sits in the lotus position. After a while, as the voice said, she begins to feel something. Some kind of warm white glow. Wuxi's eyes widen and her mouth falls open in shock. Her cheeks are a little red with excitement. Unknown forces lift the dark-haired man up, but he doesn't even think to resist. He just quietly says, Wow, it's strange but incredible. Something interesting is happening. Wuxi finds herself in the mountains. In front of her stands a towering red temple. A voice instructs the dark-haired man. This is the energy space in your seal. There are numerous techniques and magical weapons here. Purple lightning flies past the temple. The voice adds that Wuxi can completely change once he gets rid of his useless body. While the girl really likes this place, what do you like there? She is just delighted. But the voice removes the pink glasses from the dark-haired woman. He says that she has a chance to get inside, but there is a small caveat. The girl's body is still too weak. Wuxi is angry. Shaking! Then why did you call me? Wanted to get acquainted? The voice calmly reminds Wuxia that her body is now packed. Only by destroying the seal will she gain access to her spiritual powers, and only in this way will he be able to get to the pagoda. Wuxi raises his head. The girl examines the temple. Many doors lead inside it. Each of them has its own level. In order to gain access to new doors and new resources, Wuxi must improve herself. The girl pushes open the dragon door and asks, Then where's my gun? A voice belonging to a man with wings replies that he is on the 3rd floor. The dark-haired one was only able to use it because her energy was unstable when she was reborn. It was a coincidence. Now the girl cannot summon her weapon. It will become available only after the transition to a high level. Wuxi looks displeased with this answer. She crosses her arms over her chest, raises her eyebrows and contemptuously asks how she can break this idiotic seal. The man with the wings folds his hands together and says, Become a spiritual master in a month or the pagoda will choose another master. I will help you. Wuxi grabs a green sprout hanging from the roof and raises his head. trying to make out the mysterious stranger. The girl turns to him. "Oh, really? Let's go to the main thing. What is your benefit?" The man faintly smiles at the corners of his mouth. Not bad. You are not a fool. I'll show you the shades and you'll hunt down the evil spirits. I need 30,000 souls to restore my body and get out of here." Dark-haired begins to climb up with the help of a sprout. She likes the stranger's proposal. "I agree. I am Feng Wuxi. What is your name?" The man replies that he is too old to remember his name. Wuxi's eyes widened. "Are you a human or a ghost?" The stranger says that he is a raven that has slept in this place for 10,000 years. "And by the way, I'm a man," he adds. The sprout cannot withstand Wuxi and breaks. The girl indignantly tells the stranger that she already guessed his gender. The dark-haired one sits down right next to the chasm, legs dangling, and says, "How about I give you a name? I'm sure you'll quickly get tired of responding to the crow." The girl smiles slyly. "What's your name, Yasha? It means to kill all the crows of the universe. I like it, but it doesn't seem like the happiest name for you, haha." The stranger replies, "I don't care." But Wuxi does not ignore his indifference. She looks up to where the man is probably supposed to be and asks him if she can see what the raven looks like after 10,000 years. The stranger refuses to show himself to her. "Although I am the most beautiful crow," he adds with a note of narcissism in his voice. Wuxi snorts softly. Yes, modesty cannot be borrowed from this man. The girl walks across the bridge over the chasm and says goodbye to the stranger. "Okay, as you wish. Even without you, I know what crows look like. I saw them 1,000 times. Bye." The man looks after the girl. He is indeed very handsome. Long dark hair falling over sharp shoulders, narrow black eyes, thin face. He is dressed in something like a kimono. Wuxi, with a serious and at the same time slightly offended expression on his face, descends the stairs. "Time is short, so you need to start cultivating now," she decides. The room where Wuxi lives. The dark-haired one brings her eyebrows together and clasps one hand with the other. She tries to calm down. "Don't be angry. This is bad for your health." The dark-haired woman looks at the tray of soup and pie. A few days ago, her older sister brought her normal food to show the servants how kind and good she was. But her nobility quickly ended. Wuxi pushes the soup plate and shouts, "Why do I have to steal normal food now?" Exhausted and hungry, the girl falls on the bed and covers herself with a blanket. Suddenly, the crow Yasha says to her, "You have medical skills. Why not earn money for food?" The dark-haired woman throws her hands behind her head and answers that this world is different from the world where she once worked and lived. Here you will have to start from scratch. In the lands of Tianqi, alchemists rank first among spiritual masters. Everyone highly values and respects them, all because pill cleaning is incredibly difficult work. First of all, one must cultivate the spiritual mind in order to control the heavenly flame. Commanding the celestial flames is necessary to create the pills that can be used to break the seals. This is the only way to use spiritual power. Wuxi raised a finger and said, "In other words, my spiritual powers have been sealed, but the spiritual mind is still with me, and once I start using this power, I will become an alchemist." "In general, yes," answers Yasha, "but there are only a few alchemists living in the lands of Tianqi." Wuxi crosses her arms over her chest and asks with a challenge in her voice, "And if I make a pill that breaks the seal, will I become a spiritual master and an alchemist at the same time?" The raven man widens his eyes in surprise. "It's hard, but it's always better to head straight for the goal. Only in this way will you open the door of the pagoda." The girl smiles slyly. Wuxi has already decided for herself. She will become an alchemist. The next day, Feng Manor Training Pavilion. Wuxi looks at a huge stone block with a text engraved on it. The girl sighs loudly. Ah, so many rules. Everything is like in the 21st century. The dark-haired woman climbs the stone steps and opens the door of the building. The first owner of the body was a fool, so she never went to the library. Her body has no memories, Wuxi says in her mind. The girl enters the reading room. People are sitting at the tables reading. Huge cabinets with books stand along the walls. Wuxi's older sister Wuxin sees her and says sarcastically, Yes, the fool is reading with us now." The dark-haired man clenches his hands into fists, but remains calm for now. Wuxin slaps her hand on the table and yells at her sister to get out of here. The pink-haired one glared at Wuxi. What happened? The fool didn't die, but the maid I sent to the pigsty got a bloody hole in her head, Wuxin says to himself. Her younger sister decides to stop acting like an idiot. She wants revenge on this vile killer right now. Wuxi walks confidently towards Wuxin. The pink-haired girl is shocked and annoyed at the same time. Where does she get such a heavy presence? The pink-haired one thinks, gritting his teeth. The girl takes out a fiery whip from her bosom. The head of the family will soon return to the estate. Wuxin thinks she still has time, but she came to her herself. The pink-haired one swings his whip. One more step, you idiot, and you'll try my fire whip. Do you want to die? But Wuxi is not afraid. Instead, she smiles smugly and holds out her hand to her sister. A second and the whip is in Wuxi's hand. The dark-haired man gets into a fighting stance, clutching his whip tightly. The girl hits her sister on the cheek. Wuxin winces in pain. A medium-sized burn appears on the pink-haired woman's face. Wuxin opens her eyes wide. She seems surprised by her sister's behavior. She rubs her injured cheek. Wuxin's expression fills with anger. The girl shouts, "Feng Wuxi, well, you and the animal. Today you will feel the power of my fiery phoenix." A large fiery bird appears above the pink-haired girl's head. He flies straight at Wuxi. The raven Yasha tells his student, "Wuxi, run away, this is a deadly attack." But the girl does not immediately hear these words. She watched her older sister's skill as if mesmerized. "Daddy, she's showing a magical blockbuster." In the sleeve of her kimono, Wuxi feels for a set of needles sewn into the fabric. She made these needles to heal her body from silver, but she is going to use them in battle. The dark-haired man purses his lips as he prepares to attack. The girl squeezes several needles between her fingers. Now she looks a bit like a wolverine. The dark-haired man waves his hand, releasing sharp silver needles. A sinister smile plays on her face. Well, needles are a great hidden weapon. Wuxin freezes in place with wide eyes. She does not understand what is happening. Where did her mentally retarded sister get such a weapon? Needles hit the girl. She falls to the floor. Her body is bleeding. Sister and father run up to the pink-haired girl. A man with brown hair falls to his knees next to his daughter and begs her not to leave him. Wuxin sobs. "Father!" The pink-haired sister, the black-haired girl, points her finger at Wuxi and says to her father, "Kill that fool. She doesn't even have parents to teach her manners." The eyes narrow. She remembers the rule of the Feng family. Whoever attacks a relative will be kicked out of the family at best and killed at worst. In order not to get hurt, Wuxi decides to pretend to be a fool. She raises her hand to her chin and says, "Uncle Zirin, I'm mentally retarded. How should I know about family rules?" The man's brown eyes look into his niece. "Why did she speak like that?" he says in his mind. He is surprised by the girl's behavior. The man stands up and angrily says to the dark-haired woman, "Wuxi, are you disrespecting your uncle?" The girl replies that her words are not an insult, but the truth. Zirin is even more angry. "The first rule of the family is that anyone who harms a relative will die. You hurt your sister just like that. Today I will punish you on behalf of the head." A man wants to kill a girl. But Wuxi is not going to give up so easily. She raises her eyebrows and tells her uncle that only the heir can reward or punish someone on behalf of the head. Another dark-haired older sister enters the library. Wuxi decides to take advantage of this. "I don't know if the other brothers and sisters will accept your title of head of the head, Sister Vakusia. Do you agree with uncle?" The girl meekly replies that Wuxi has just broken the family rules by hitting her sister. "Uncle Zirin can punish you as an elder," she continues, "but he must never speak on behalf of the head." Wuxi explodes with anger. She shouts that now she knows the face of the one who lies like a gray mare. The girl's uncle shouts back, "You arrogant and rude woman, you will be punished right now." Lightning appears from the man's fist. Zirin directs her to her hated niece. Wuxi jumps to the side. Crow Yash, who sees all this from above, shouts to the girl, "Wuxi, run away, you are not his equal." The girl mentally says, "Run? How do I know that I will be lucky enough to escape?" The first lightning does not touch Wuxi. The girl managed to dodge at the last second. Zirin is not happy about this. He raises his hand and summons another wave of lightning. The man's facial expression is impassive. He rejects all emotions and concentrates on his spiritual powers. He waves his hand, forming a circle of lightning. "Nice try," Zirin says to his niece. Now he is sure that he can hurt her. Wuxi's jaw drops in surprise. Suddenly a man in red clothes, her second uncle, approaches Wuxi. He looks worriedly at his niece. The girl asks with half-closed eyes, "Uncle Zuyi?" The man turns sharply to Zirin and angrily tells him, "That's enough, bro, you almost killed her." Zirin yells, "Why are you interfering? It's against the rules of the family." But Zuyi is not going to give up so quickly. He raises his eyebrows and says, "Family rules? Will the one who attacks a relative die? How could your daughter be hurt unless she was going to kill Wuxi herself? In this case, I'm afraid Wuxing will have to be punished, not her sister, who was just defending herself." Zirin rages. He doesn't understand how his brother can protect a creature like Wuxi. "She just hurt my daughter," the man shouts. Wuxi, meanwhile, is lying face down on the floor. Zuyi asks his brother how he was going to justify himself to the head of the family when he returned to the estate. Zuyi covers her half-conscious niece and says firmly to Ziren, "It doesn't matter how bad Wuxi's cultivation is. She is the only child our younger brother left behind, and still the daughter of this family. I will not let her die in vain." Wuxi raises her head and smiles slyly. It seems that the uncle has some shreds of conscience left. However, why didn't he protect the previous owner of the body? She thinks. Zuyi pulls out some kind of red jar from his kimono, probably containing medicine. Or with poison. He shakes one small round red pill out of her palm. Zuyi kneels down and brings it to her niece's lips. "Wuxi, eat this. The pill will save your life." The girl thanks her husband. Meanwhile, Zirin is barely restraining himself from killing someone in that room. He glares at his brother and says to himself, "Idiot, you ruined everything." Zuyi placed his hand on Wuxi's back and addressed everyone present. "All the children of the Feng family are allowed to spend no more than 4 hours in the library, with one exception." The eyes of the many members of the Feng family currently here stared at Wuxi. Zuyi agrees. This exception is the children of the main family. Those present sigh in dissatisfaction, but do not dare to listen to Zuya, so they leave the library. Only Wuxi, her uncle and sister remain in the room. The man asks his daughter to take Wuxi to the room and summon an alchemist for her. The girl looks at her father. She does not like his actions. What is he doing? He stopped Uncle Zirin and lost such a chance, Vuxia says in her mind. But she does not show her displeasure and, smiling slyly, extends her hand to her sister. "Sister, let me help you up," says the girl. But Wuxi gently pushes her hand away. The dark-haired one gives her sister an angry look and says, "No, thank you. I will go myself. To remember how much I was hurt today and what a hard life awaits me in the future." She gets up, turns her back to her relatives, and walks away. Zuyi tries to stop her niece, but she no longer listens. Wuxi is engrossed in her thoughts of revenge against Feng Wuxin. So far, she can't kill her. Yet, the girl confidently opens the door and finally says that she will repay those who harmed her 1,000-fold. Those who helped her in a difficult moment will be rewarded. As soon as the door closes behind the dark-haired woman, Vuxia starts shouting at her father. She asks the man why he missed the chance to become the heir and help Wuxi. The man closes his eyes and calmly asks his daughter to stop. He crosses his arms over his chest and explains to the girl that her sister was born a fool and had no cultivation ability. But one day, a prophet came. Zuya's daughter stares intently at her husband. A second later, she clarifies, "A prophet from the lands of the Soul Realm? Am I understanding correctly?" The Soul Realm is a remote land far away from Tianqi. Strong and talented spiritual warriors live in the land of the royal spirit. Prophets are a special specialty in the lands of the royal spirit. They know how to read souls through bodies and predict the future of children. Wuxi's gaze glides across the library. The Feng family is just a small clan on the outskirts of the Tianqi lands. I did not expect that a prophet would get here who would predict the fate of this fool. I hate it, thinks the girl. She clenches her hands into fists and asks her father what fate awaits Wuxi. He puts his hands behind his back and answers that the prophet said only a few words. Their essence is this. This incompetent, at first glance, girl will show herself. Vuxia is shocked. She says to Zuya, "Defeat the inexorable fate. Father, are you saying that Feng Wuxi should have survived this day? Is that why you saved her?" The man tries not to look his daughter in the eye. "Yes, I watched Feng Wuxi. She has changed a lot. Now I felt 2 strange spiritual powers, and one more person contacted me." Vuxia says that she has never heard anything like that. The man calmly continues. "He used spiritual power to send a personal message. His power is inexhaustible. We cannot stand against him, even all of us together. Fuxia opens her mouth in surprise. Really? And what did he say? Zuyi raises his eyebrows. It seems he doesn't really want to talk about it with anyone right now. But he realizes that his daughter won't let go just like that, so he says, he said that he would lose our entire clan if Feng Wuxi died. That man was quite handsome and waved at Wuxi's fiancée. Martial Arts Pavilion. Observation Tower. Someone is sitting under a small canopy which is designed to protect people from the sun. Someone's hand is pouring some kind of drink into a glass with a graceful gesture. A young man in a red suit with long black hair and a dark-haired boy are sitting on the platform of the observation tower. He asks his friend why the head of the royal spirit sect should pay attention to such small things. The man puts the glass on the table, turns his head in the direction of the young partner and seriously asks him a counter-question. Do you think this is a small thing? He explains to him, I traveled for 3 months from the royal spirit lands to the land of Tianqi, and it took another 3 months to find this woman in Qing'an City. The man raises the glass to his lips again and concludes, I spent 6 months on all this. Do you think I should have let her die right after I found her? His partner opens his eyes wide. Really? So this woman, Feng Wuxi, that the great patriarch was talking about? The same woman who can complete your constellation map? After a second, the boy waves his hand and tells the man that Wuxi is too proud, scary, and also lacking spiritual powers. She doesn't suit you at all, delivers his verdict, dark-haired. He leans his hand on the table and unobtrusively offers the man to marry her sister. Their marriage would bring the clans together. The man squints somewhere to the side, wanting to disappear from here, and turns to the boy. Mo Rong, if she marries me and finds out about the words you said today, you yourself know what will happen. The man turns to face the mountains and throws his friend a dry, let's go from here? The one, surprised by such a sudden change of mood, asks, where to? The black-haired man closes his eyes and smiles faintly. Evening, the sun slowly sinks below the horizon. Wuxi's room. The girl with her eyes closed says to herself, I took some pills, but if I got more treatment, I'm afraid the disease would just eat me up. Wuxi touches the cut on his chest and clenches his jaws. The girl is in pain. She puts her hands on her knees and lowers her head. Feng Wuxi seems to be praying. After a while, the girl turns her gaze to the window. The Feng family's house is so tall that its roof almost touches the branches of the trees. The girl pulls out one needle from her clothes and mysteriously says, the last meridian. Now all my meridians are unlocked. She carefully places the needle on the napkin. The dark-haired woman undresses, lies down in bed and closes her eyes. She had quite a busy day today. She sticks one hand out from under the blanket and sighs, ah, I'm so tired. A few minutes pass. The girl is already dozing. And then the same man in a red kimono with black hair enters her room. He leans on the jamb and says, this body has no spiritual power, but it managed to survive a lightning strike that an ordinary soul master wouldn't be able to withstand. A sly smile appears on the man's face, stubborn and with a stupid character. He quietly, so as not to wake the girl, approaches her. What an interesting girl, he says. Now it's time to learn the story of this mysterious, handsome man. Those around him noticed only his talent. He ascended the throne at a very early age. Also, people knew that his achievements were beyond certain possibilities. They did not know only one. From the very birth, his fate was changed by another. He forcibly changed the fate prepared for him and rebelled against the purpose of cultivation. In the end, he walked over the large number of corpses of his enemies and took the throne of the sect head. Of course, it was a difficult, bloody, and perhaps not entirely honest way. But life is cruel. You often have to bite your teeth. 6 months ago, a gray-haired old man approaches the man's table and says, Chairman, your curse is approaching. You must find a girl with the power of a phoenix who owns a strong constellation. The sooner the better. The old man narrows his brown eyes and adds in a serious tone, marry her. Complete your constellation in this way. Otherwise, after 20 years, your life will be exposed to constant dangers and troubles. Back to Wuxi and the dark-haired man. He stretches out his hand, wanting to touch the dark-haired woman's shoulder, and says with some bliss in his voice, finally, girl, I will marry you. In any case. His hand has almost reached the girl's shoulder until suddenly she opens her eyes and says menacingly, just try. If you touch me, I'll blow your head off. Your brains will fly all over the room. The dark-haired man pulls the blanket almost up to his chin, turns on his back and stretches out his hand with the needle. The man calmly observes all this. He doesn't seem to care at all that he might lose an eye. The girl is surprised when she sees who is standing next to her bed. Ah, it's him, the dark-haired man says in his mind. But after a second, her expression becomes displeased again. Even if he's a handsome boy, he still tried to touch me like a pervert. I will not forgive. The man crosses his arms over his chest and kindly reminds Wuxi that he ordered her to survive and wait for him. Well, not bad, you're still alive, he says sarcastically. The man then glances at the needle Wuxi threatened him with and says that it's a nice weapon, but it won't be able to blow up his head. The girl defiantly says, "Let's check?" The handsome boy ignores her words. He touches Wuxi's face and notices the scars on it. So many scars. Oh, it's killing me. The man strokes the dark-haired girl's cheek. She grinds her teeth with rage. It has no effect on the handsome man. In the end, Wuxi can't stand it anymore and brings the needle to his cheek. But suddenly, a barely noticeable glow of light brown color appears near the man's head, which serves as a shield. The needle bounces off him. Wuxi stares at the man in shock. Who is he? With such spiritual power? The black-haired man behaves as if nothing had happened. He takes the girl's hand in his and says, "The wounds can be healed, but you should have died after that whiplash." He leans on Wuxi's bed and asks her how she survived. Here it occurs to him that the girl might not have survived but resurrected. He leans towards Wuxi's face and asks her about it. The dark-haired girl remembers how she was lying in the pigsty when her older sister bullied her. The girl looks puzzled. She does not know how to explain all this to her husband, and she already doubts that she understood everything correctly. In the head of the black-haired man, thoughts are raging. It seems that this girl has interesting secrets. She does not belong to this world. How did she get here? Pry out her secrets by force, or just wait until she tells everything herself? The man closes his eyes and sighs. He decides to forget about it. The main thing is that Feng Wuxi is alive. The girl clutches the blanket with her fingers and says to the handsome boy, "I'm going to get dressed, get out of here." The man moves away from the girl, but is in no hurry to leave her bedroom. Wuxi asks who he is. The handsome man with his arms crossed on his chest replies, "Di Qianxi." The girl puts on a dress and squints at the black-haired man, carefully making sure that he does not peek. She warily says that she has never heard such a name. The man smiles narcissistically. "I'm pretty strong," the girl snorts. "Such a magnificent turkey," she says in her mind. "In what?" Wuxi asks. The handsome guy stares at the girl with red eyes and confidently says, "I'm good at everything you can imagine." It does not make any impression on the girl. She rudely asks the man why he came. He again approaches Wuxi's luxurious bed, leans on it and says that he has come to see his bride. He can't marry a girl he knows very little about. The man takes Wuxi by the chin and says, "You are my bride." Dark-haired, to put it mildly, surprised. As far as she remembers, her fiancé is a young master from the Murong family, not this man. The dark-haired woman's face radiates anger. She thinks that the black-haired man is deceiving her. Wuxi points his hand at the door and tells him coldly and clearly, "Get out of here." The guy sits down from the girl. Wuxi clenches her hands into fists in indignation. If this narcissistic turkey doesn't get out of her bedroom now, she can't vouch for herself. The man rubs his head with his hand and says, "Stupid woman." After these words, the dark-haired man explodes with anger. "What?" The handsome man tries to calm her down. "Shall we agree? You marry me, and I give you everything you want." The girl firmly refuses. Di Qianxi raised his hand to the girl's neck and said with a cold calm in his voice, "Then you will die." Wuxi asks, "Do you want to kill me?" The man releases her neck and says that it is easy to do. The girl, already tired of this situation, shouts in his face, "Why should I marry you? I don't even know who you are. What can you even offer me? Fly in the sky?" Di Qianxi smiles. He is amused by the girl's behavior. She doesn't seem to be fully aware of what she's saying. Then the man does what the girl did not expect at all. He grabs her by the waist and lifts her up from the bed. He, holding Wuxi in his arms, goes out into the yard. Dark-haired is indignant. "What are you doing?" The man is silent. He accelerates and easily jumps into a tree. Di Qianxi rushes upwards. Frightened, Wuxi closes her eyes and leans against the man's shoulder. forgetting that she hated him a few minutes ago. She clutches the handsome man's kimono. She didn't think he would take her words completely seriously. Di Qianxi smiles. He seems pleased with himself. After a second, the girl calms down and again begins to pretend to be a rain cloud that is about to peel off. Wuxi, despite her inner fear, orders her husband, "Let me go." The handsome boy glances at the dark-haired one, as usual, ignores her request and orders her to hold on tighter. Wuxi punches the man in the chest. "Di Qianxi, enough pretending. What do you need?" The dark-haired man says that his goal is quite simple, to marry a girl. Wuxi asks, offended, "Marry me? Fall in love at first sight with my ruined face or useless body?" The man laughs as if this is some kind of joke. The dark-haired one asks what's so funny. Meanwhile, they are already flying in the sky. They are held by a huge red bird. The girl looks shocked. The handsome man smiles at her and says, "You asked to take you flying. I fulfilled your wish. How will you thank?" A bird soars in the sky. A man sits on it so as not to fall. The handsome boy looks at Vuxi, but she smiles slyly and mentally asks herself, "Why is he staring?" The girl closes her eyes and says to her husband in a serious tone, "Do you want to marry me? Well, know that it is not as easy as it seems." The handsome man asks the dark-haired man, "Do you regret it yet?" He stands up and looks forward. The girl sternly replies, "Di Qianxi, first bring me back down to the ground, and let's talk, okay?" The man silently agrees and jumps off the bird. The black-haired man slowly descends down, holding Wuxi tightly. A second later, he is already on the ground. The man has a not bad character. He landed right in a puddle. But he does not pay attention to this, but instead carefully places the dark-haired one on the ground, in front of him. The man closes his eyes, sighs and utters words that are difficult for him. "Let's talk." The dark-haired one says, "I have one condition on which I will marry you. I must fall in love with you." The man puts his hands on his waist. Wuxi continues, "You have a goal, and I have principles. If you try to take me by force, I'd rather die." Di Qianxi gently pats the girl's cheek and asks cheerfully, "Do you think I'm not good enough for you?" The dark-haired one grimaces. She is not very pleased that the man stubbornly ignores her request not to touch her without permission. The black-haired man doesn't get an answer and continues to ponder. Am I not good enough? Wuxi blushes a little and looks away. If he's not handsome, then I don't care about beauty at all, she thinks. A crystal glass appears out of nowhere in the black-haired man's hand. The man grips it tightly in his hand and it shatters, leaving behind only a purple glow. "Do I have weak spiritual power?" asks the handsome man. The girl crosses her arms over her chest and shakes her head dismissively. "No, you are very strong." Di Qianxi tilts his head to the side and blinks. "Then what's wrong?" he asks. Wuxi spread her hands and began to patiently explain. "How can we get married if we don't even know each other? If we loved each other, I would marry you, even if you were nobody. But if we don't like each other, I won't be your wife, even if you were a king." The man raises his eyebrows. "You won't give in to either the carrot or the stick," he says in his mind. Then the handsome boy smiles again and confidently promises the girl that she will fall in love with him. His facial expression is somewhat strange, some kind of crazy. The man declares, "Within a year, you will be my wife in the royal spirit sect." The girl looks straight into the black-haired man's eyes and says, "Let's see." The man squints with satisfaction and begins to rummage through his kimono. He pulls out a yellow bag with red patterns and an image of yin and yang. It's a bottomless bag. Di Qianxi throws him forward with a sharp movement. The girl looks surprised at this sight. First, a dressing table with a bunch of different perfumes falls out of the bag, probably very expensive and rare. Then a huge carved mahogany cabinet appears in the room. It is quickly filled with things, dresses and kimonos for various purposes. After that, 3 giant chests fall out of the bag. They have precious stones, gold bars, bracelets, etc. The next item is a giant mirror made of pure gold. Wuxi stares at him. The girl tries to stop the black-haired man and asks what he is doing. That annoying sly smile appears again on the man's face. "What?" "It's a gift," he answers innocently. The girl mentally dances a victory dance. Tears of happiness appear in her eyes. "Perfectly. I was poor, hungry, and beaten, and now I received such gifts." She rejoices. This is exactly what I need. Di Tianxi squints at the girl with a smile on her face. Wuxi's behavior seems cute to him. Did the man fall in love with her? He crosses his arms over his chest and begins to give the dark-haired woman a brief briefing on the gifts. Here are some spiritual cultivation books, daily pills, 50 vials. You can use it. The handsome man points with his hand at various vials. It turns out that they do not contain perfume, but pills. The man lists them. Heart pills, soul pills, spirit creation pills, blood clotting pills, anti-lightning pills. The girl looks at them with wide eyes. Do I have to take all this? The man says that you need to take 1 pill of each type, and there are 10 of them. By the way, these pills belong to the high-level ones. Wuxi continues to examine the gifts. Now she likes this handsome man more than a few hours ago. He is not only handsome, but also very skilled. But he also knows how to please a girl. Dark-haired notices some soft blue flowers among the mountain of chests. She puts one to her hair and walks over to the golden mirror to look at herself. Then Wuxi takes the gold earrings with blue stones in her hands. What a beauty! I have never worn such things, says the girl in her mind. Suddenly, the crow Yasha starts talking to the dark-haired woman. Wuxi, he is an unusual man. Can't tell his power level. If he's given you so much, maybe you'll ask him about the unsealing pills? The girl freezes in place with a book and a blue cover. Exactly. Wuxi mentions, if I don't have a way to remove the seal, all these cultivation books won't help me. The dark-haired one turns his head to Di Tianxi. Do you have the seal removal pill? The man asks. Do you need them? The handsome man looks somewhat surprised by the girl's question. But he never gets an answer, so he decides to act on his own. The man grabs Wuxi's hand and examines the girl's palm. He points to a faint pattern of lightning. The seal in your body cannot be destroyed by an outside force. The black-haired man looks into the girl's eyes. Compared to him, she seems quite tiny. The man says that Wuxi must master the heavenly hearth and create a pill to remove the seal herself. The dark-haired woman cannot give an answer to the question of who put this seal on her. The girl asks, so even if you have this pill, it still can't help remove my seal? The man nods his head. Yes, the power of heaven and the power of fire are original to each person. If the soul power is sealed, you can use the heavenly powers to remove the seal, he explains. The girl sighs and closes her eyes. Wuxi realizes what a thorny path she will have to go through to become strong. But she is sure that she will definitely manage. The black-haired man brushes his chin. The ability to become an alchemist depends on talent. The man doubts that the girl will be able to make the pill. Wuxi says, you'll see. Di Tianxi likes the girl's passion. Handsome says, okay, I have a collection of pill-cleaning books. Now they are all yours. You can study and show me how you do. The dark-haired woman winks slyly at the man. Are you sure you want to give it all on the first date? You know you can say goodbye to them forever, she says. But it seems that these books are not very expensive for the black-haired man. He snaps his fingers and the bottomless bag flies up again and opens. Several more books fly out of it. The man says to the girl in concentration, I just want to help my bride. I'm doing it for you. He lightly pats Wuxi on the head. Dark-haired people don't like it very much. She blushes. Then the girl, trying to break the awkward silence that arose in the room after the boy's words, looks around and says, there are a lot of things here. The black-haired man throws a bottomless bag at Wuxi. Don't worry, says Di Tianxi. The bottomless pouch is yours too. You can put everything in it. The girl rolls her eyes and asks why she took all these things out of the bag if it belonged to her. The man waves his hand and cheerfully says, well, I like to show off in front of others. Wuxi starts to get angry because of her husband's words. She opens her eyes wide and mentally shouts, Grandfather, devil, devil! The pouch in her hands begins to glow. With a wave of his hand, the black-haired man puts all the gifts back to where he got them. The man says to the girl, now you can carry it with you and use it any time. Wuxi is confused. She doesn't know what to say. The territory of the Feng family. The servants are sitting on the grass discussing the recent event in the library, the fight between the Feng sisters. They talk about Wuxi's scars and the girl's mind, which has strangely returned to her. Suddenly, a guy appears in the middle of the garden. He shouts, Fang Wuxi, well, get out! The servants shudder. The guy chases them away. He is wearing a white battlesuit and a blue cloak. Frightened servants run away. The old man looks forward and shouts at Wuxi, Bitch, how dare you touch my sister? She's a genius, not you. Get out of the house, I will kill you. He turns out to be Wuxin's brother. Wuxi looks at the young man through the window. She is currently busy studying cultivation, and this fool is disturbing her. The girl says to herself, "Of course, a brother is worthy of his sister. Both are arrogant and domineering." The guy carries a weapon that looks like a hammer and mace above his head. He shouts, "What, Feng Wuxi is afraid to go out, right? Then I'll kill you and that's it." The blue glow of his weapon hits the roof. Wooden boards start burning and falling inside the building. This is what the young man was counting on. He hopes the dark-haired man will suffocate from the smoke or simply burn alive. A burning board falls on the table right in front of the girl. The girl manages to dodge at the last moment. She closes her eyes, covers her head with her hands and screams, "What kind of old man?" But the dark-haired one is not going to die. She kneads her fingers and literally takes out the door of the house. The girl rushes to the bar with crazy speed. "Feng Wulin," she throats. "You ran into it yourself." The fist of the dark-haired girl crashes into the cheeky guy's face. He leans back with a scream full of pain. He rubs his damaged nose and asks himself, why is she so fast? Fulin covers his eyes with his hand and thinks for a moment, although this is not typical for him. He notices that this time the girl moves much faster than in the library. In the end, the guy pulls himself together and, clutching his weapon tightly in his hand, says to the girl, "Great, you got out. I am not my father who is concerned with manners. You hurt my sister and I will take revenge for her." He swings a hammer mace. It is necessary for him to collect lightning. But Wuxi is not afraid of his brother or his barbed weapon. The girl smiles slyly and puts her fist forward. Needles are pinched between the fingers of the dark-haired woman. The girl concentrates as much as possible and swings her hand, releasing deadly needles. She catches her brother by surprise. He shouts, "Stop! Stop! I'm not ready yet." But it's too late. The mace hammer ends up on the ground. The boy falls to his knees. He definitely got his white pants dirty, but there are more important issues at hand. For example, a bunch of branches flying straight at him. Fulin squeezes his ears with his hands and bends in half. The boy shouts, "Needles again, what, you can't do anything else?" Wuxi smiles menacingly. In his place, she wouldn't have said such words. The girl starts approaching her brother. Don't come. He is scared. What are you doing?" The guy tries to crawl back but can't. He cannot move. The dark-haired one glares at the young man and says, "It's okay, you destroyed my house, now I guess you have to make it up to me, right?" Vulin cannot hold back and begins to cry. He begs his sister to stop, reminding them of their blood relation and the rules of the Feng family. However, the dark-haired is relentless. She points her finger at the boy and says firmly, "Enough talking about family rules. You destroyed my house with your own hands, didn't you?" The girl steps on Vulin's hand. He screams in pain. "How dare you!" He's still trying to look menacing, but his courage immediately disappears when Wuxi steps on his second palm. "And this one too," the dark-haired man orders. The girl has just shown this brat that she is not to be trifled with. The young man shouts, "Ah!" Even though Wuxi is light, he is still in a lot of pain. Wuxi ignores him. She lifts her head up and closes her eyes, barely restraining herself from crying. Wuxi thinks about the Feng family, her family. The girl realizes that she will definitely be kicked out for such an act. In addition, she now has no home. The dark-haired one glances at his house. It has almost burned down. "What's the difference now?" thinks Wuxi. "If there is no place for me here, I will live somewhere else." She goes away. Market. Sellers try in every way to convince people of their goods. Steamed buns, fresh buns, sugar pumpkin, fried bread, soy milk, bean jelly. Wuxi, walking through the market, does not pay any attention to these shouts. She thinks about where she should live now. "I heard that there is Qingyan Mountain on the outskirts of Qing'an City. Very quiet place. It will be the perfect shelter for me." Wuxi stretches out her hand to the sun. "It's so hot today." The girl walks through the mountain forest. "Almost there," she sighs. "How difficult. That body really needs a workout." The dark-haired one looks around. "Wow, there are so many flowers and trees here. Good luck finding a quiet and peaceful place to cultivate." Suddenly, the girl opens her eyes wide in surprise. She notices a black-haired man dressed in a red kimono among the trees. He has a fan in his hands. It is none other than Di Qianxi. The man smiles enigmatically at Wuxi. The girl closes her eyes, trying to focus on her path. Her cheeks are red. The dark-haired woman persuades herself not to be distracted by the man. He's not sexy at all. In the end, she couldn't hold back and approached him. "Did you know that I will be kicked out of Feng Manor?" The handsome man crosses his arms over his chest and replies, "Their family is not worthy of you, and their poor house did not suit my bride." Wuxi also crosses her arms and asks the man in a serious tone how he guessed that she would come here. Di Qianxi blinks his eyes cheerfully. "This is the best place for cultivation, I know, my bride." The girl demonstratively turns away from the black-haired man and asks, "Who did you call the bride?" The man is a little annoyed by the stubbornness of the dark-haired woman, but he does not break down, but instead calmly answers, "You." After a second, he adds, "Not yet, but you will be her." The girl walks through the forest with Di Qianxi. He tells her about what he did. "I asked the servants to build a house. It is simple, but you can live in it for a short time." The man assures the girl that if she doesn't like it, he will order another one to be built. The dark-haired man says to himself, "What kind of house can you build in an hour? It doesn't matter, it's just cultivation." Finally, the black-haired man and the girl reach their destination. The girl pushes the bushes with her hands and says, "Holy cookies!" She was impressed by the modest house, which turned out to be a wooden cottage. The man sees her surprise and says, "You already fell in love with me, right?" The girl snaps out of her thoughts and pushes the black-haired man away. She says angrily, "Don't deceive yourself." The argument between the handsome man and Wuxi is interrupted by a boy who has just left the house. He bows to Di Qianxi. "Head." Then the boy introduced himself to Wuxi. "Miss Feng, I am the messenger servant of the chairman, Mo Rong." He bows to her in greeting. The girl tells the boy to just call her Wuxi. The dark-haired one then asks, "Did you build this cottage?" She wonders who the author of this masterpiece is. The guy asks in surprise, "Cottage?" As far as he remembers, he did not build any cottage. Wuxi sees the young man's confusion and immediately corrects himself. "Ah, that is a wooden house." The young man replies that he really did it. But if Wuxi doesn't like it, it's not a problem. You can break down this house and build a new one. The dark-haired woman hurries to stop the boy's ardor. "You don't need to break anything. I like it." Mo Rong smiles. "As you wish. The chairman has asked to prepare accommodation especially for you, madam." The dark-haired man turns his head towards Di Qianxi. He winks at her. In the end, the girl takes her eyes off the handsome man. "Why did I fall into his trap again?" Wuxi scolds herself. It seems to the girl that she is really falling in love with this man as he promised. But time will tell. Wuxi distracts herself from her thoughts and touches the vines wrapped around the house. Mo Rong, it looks like the tree is still alive," she says. "It even has flowers and vines growing on it. It's just a miracle." The guy waves his hand. "There is nothing difficult for a spiritual master to build a house quickly." He says, "If you cultivate the elements of water, earth, wind, and wood, you can easily control plants." The girl is interested in the boy's words. She looks at him in surprise and asks if this is true. Everything related to cultivation is needed by Wuxi. Mo Rong turns on the teacher and begins to explain. "You need to use the wood element as raw material, nourish it with earth and water. And the wind controls the growth of the tree, that's all. The house appears in a few minutes." Wuxi gives a thumbs up and says that's cool. The girl is really impressed with Mo Rong's skills. This can be seen from her wide-open eyes. Di Qianxi is amused by the dark-haired woman's reaction. The man says to Wuxi, "It's just a house, why do you admire it?" The girl turns to the handsome man, puts her hands on her waist, and answers, "If you can build such a wonderful house, I will admire you." Mo Rong is quick to defend his master's honor. "Miss Feng, my cultivation is nothing compared to the head. It's just that his strength cannot be demonstrated." Wuxi squints suspiciously at the black-haired man. Who is he anyway? The girl thinks. But she immediately stops her thoughts. Does not matter. We need to start cultivation as soon as possible. The dark-haired man assures himself. The girl stands in the doorway of her house and looks at Di Qianxi and his servant. "Thank you for such a beautiful house on Canyon Mountain," she says politely. The dark-haired woman adds that she should create the seal removal pills in a few days. "You can go about your business," she says. "I don't need company." The man and the boy smile. Di Qianxi agrees. The girl remains alone. She looks at the seal on her palm and tells herself seriously that there are 15 days left. She has to cope. There is no other way out. Night. Wuxi sits under the starry sky. She is training. Yasha's crow helps her in this. He says, Wuxi, focus your mind and gather spiritual energy. Make it move through all the acupuncture points of your body. If the girl finds at least one point, she will become an alchemist of the first degree, and her veins will be filled with heavenly fire. The girl follows Yasha's instructions, but so far nothing works for her. Sweat runs down the dark-haired woman's face. Wuxi listens to the crow. She takes a blue goblet and pours liquid from a green bottle into it. The girl decides to try one pill of each type. 10 days pass. One day there is a large cauldron near Wuxi's house, probably cooking something in it. The girl sitting nearby suddenly squints and screams in pain. She grabs her hand and says in shock, "Are these spiritual meridians?" Thin lines appeared on her hand, emitting a warm yellow glow. Wuxi dark hair is shocked. She opens her eyes wide and says to herself, "I can control them." Then a blue light appears on the girl's palm. Wuxi stared at him with his mouth wide open. Heavenly flame. The dark-haired woman raises her hand to her face and smiles happily. Her efforts were not in vain. The raven Yasha notices the success of his student. He is also surprised. "Wuxi, you did it. You managed to break through in just 10 days. The dark-haired one looks at his fingers, which are oozing blue flames, and asks Yasha, "I thought the heavenly flames were supposed to be hot, but why doesn't it burn my hand at all? I don't feel heat at all, only warmth." Yasha cheerfully replies that if someone else touches this flame, literally nothing will remain from his palms. It turns the limbs into steam. Wuxi touches one palm to the other. The flame jumps in her hands. The girl still cannot understand how it works. "What? But then why don't I feel the heat?" she asks. Yasha crosses her arms over her chest and begins to explain. "Now you are an alchemist and this is your technique. You cannot be harmed by fire techniques now." The girl continues to hold the blue light in her palm and asks Yasha another question. "So alchemists aren't terrible spirit masters with fiery techniques?" The raven hesitates a bit, but finally answers that the heavenly and earthly flames really cannot harm the alchemist. But hellfire is completely different. His power is terrifying. Even an alchemist can't stand it. Wuxi wonders, what is this hellfire? Yasha smiles out of the corner of her mouth and, like a natural teacher, begins to tell Wuxi about the types of flames. From his short lesson, you can learn that earth fire is ordinary fire from the real world. Heavenly fire, the fire with the highest temperature, can only be possessed by an alchemist. But hellfire came from hell. Only dark masters can use it. It burns not bodies, but souls. Wuxi smiles slyly and says, "In other words, I'd better not provoke the dark soul masters. That being said, I can slap Feng Wuxin, right?" Yasha smiles back. He says that later the girl can test the heavenly flame on her cruel older sister. The sassy Wuxin will be a great specimen to practice on. Wuxi is happy that she is now an alchemist. The golden cauldron begins to heat up and glow. Wuxi stares at him intently. The girl is sure that this vessel contains some strange power. "You'll have to ask Di Qianxi," says the dark-haired man. The girl assures herself that she will cope with everything, because the method of creating pills was invented more than 1,000 years ago. Wuxi closes her eyes. The image of the dragon on the vessel shines even more powerfully. The girl brings the cauldron to her without touching it. A blue flame appears in it. The dragon carved on the vessel breaks free. He is very handsome, golden scales, red eyes. It exudes majesty. Wuxi says in shock, "That's the dragon that was on the vessel." The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide in surprise. "Did the heavenly flame revive him?" she asks. 2 hours later, Wuxi is still holding the cauldron in the air with the celestial flame, and then several red pills fly out of the vessel. Apparently this is what the girl wanted to create. Judging by her reaction, it is. Wuxi stares at the pill already lying in her palm. The brunette can't believe she managed to do that, and even for a relatively short period of time. Wuxi clenches her hands into fists and joyfully shouts, "Yasha, I succeeded!" Raven tells his student that she has a rare talent. Not everyone can make pills the first time. Wuxi closes her eyes and proudly replies, "Of course, I have always been a good student." Yasha opens her eyes wide and asks what the word student means. The girl laughs. She rests her hands on the ground, leans back a little, and says, "It means genius. A true genius." The dark-haired woman is very pleased with herself. Yasha crosses her arms over her chest and says that this is impudent. But now is not the time for entertainment. The raven tells Wuxi that the pill level needs to be checked now. The girl looks at the pill, not understanding how exactly to do it. Yasha carefully examines the pill and delivers his verdict. This is the 3rd level. Only alchemy kings can create such pills. Wuxi leans on the table and thinks about these words. She didn't study magic, the ingredients were ordinary too. Most likely this vessel is from Diqianxi. Yasha says, "I do not know about the treasures of your world. Ask the person who gave it to you. That boy really cares about you." Wuxi imagines Diqianxi's face if he heard those words. He would definitely not like being called a boy. He would probably be gnashing his teeth with rage. The dark-haired one can't hold back and starts laughing. But she calms down quickly. "Yashi is more than 10,000 years old," the girl says to herself. "Perhaps from his point of view we are all ants." The raven brings Wuxi back to reality. In a serious tone, he asks the girl what she is doing. "Take the pill and start cultivating," orders Yasha. "I'm waiting for you to get perfume for me." The dark-haired one raises the pill to his lips and mentally notes, "Well, now I know he planned my future." As soon as the girl swallows the pill, purple lightning starts to erupt from her body. Wuxi screams. As soon as everything stops, she asks Yash in shock what it was. He answers, "Spiritual meridians. Similar to soul meridians, but their power originates in soul seals. Each person has his own stamp. Yours is in the palm of your hand." The girl looks at her palm. Wuxi realizes that Yasha guessed the location of her lightning bolt mark, because it is now visible to everyone. Wuxi carefully examines the fire lightning. Yasha confirms her thoughts. "Yes, once you were sealed, so only you could see her. Now everyone can see her." Wuxi raises her hand to her chin, closes her eyes, and thinks, "Of course that means that fire lotus on Diqianxi's forehead, his seal. We are both spiritual masters, but why is he so handsome?" The girl blushes a little and asks the crow, "Yasha, am I now a spiritual master too?" He smiles and tells the dark-haired woman that although she has not yet learned combat techniques, it can be said that she is one of the spiritual masters. Wuxi stands up, leans his hands on the balcony beam, and asks the crow the 1,000th question. "So I have enough experience to open the tower?" Yasha crosses her arms over her chest and tells the girl that she can try. Some time passes. Wuxi stands in front of a huge red tower and looks up. "Still can't see the top," says the dark-haired man. Wuxi clenches her hand into a fist and says to herself, "I should definitely be able to open the gate this time." The girl touches the gate with the image of a dragon, about to use the force. But she won't need it. The gate opens immediately. The dark-haired man barely manages to remove his hands from them. The girl sees a wonderful landscape in front of her. A green meadow, a lake, rocks. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide in surprise. She notices that she can smell herbs. The girl runs forward, jumping from one stone block to another. Wuxi laughs. "Ha ha ha ha! There really is a whole field of herbs here. This is very good, because herbs may still be needed by dark-haired people." To his surprise, the dark-haired man notices the eternal bamboo, the leaves of the sedge, the grasses of the earth and the heavens. They look simply incredible. The girl's eyes begin to shine with happiness. "Here are all the rare herbs listed in the medical directory," she says in her mind. "They can be found only once in a century. But now I have a lot of them. I'll take a lot of pills." A picture appears in the girl's imagination, where she hugs a huge bag of money, probably 3 times bigger than her. The dark-haired one smiles. "I'll get rich." The girl looks at the lake. "It seems that there is some strange power in this source," she thinks. Indeed, the water in it is a little unusual, blue-green in color. The girl touches her. The water is warm and pleasant to the touch, but it also has healing properties. Wuxi notices that the scars on her arm are magically disappearing. The dark-haired man pulls his hands out of the water. The skin is like new. "Just a few minutes?" Wuxi is surprised. The girl starts playing with water. It seems that the water in this spring has spiritual power. The dark-haired girl decides that she should take a bath here. Wuxi quickly sheds her clothes, leaving them on the shore, and jumps into the warm water herself. The girl closes her eyes so that it does not get into her eyes. The healing properties are, of course, good, but Vuxi does not know about the effect of this water on the eyesight. After a few seconds, the girl straightens up and relaxes her body. Water holds her. Wuxi is feeling very well. Some time passes. She climbs out of the water and looks at her reflection. All the scars are gone, I'm beautiful. Yasha, watching the girl, smiles slyly and says, "If you return to the family estate now, no one will recognize you." Wuxi happily asks, "Really, can't wait to check it out." Yasha is surprised. "Do you want to go back there? To those superior clowns?" Wuxi raises his hand to his chin and thinks, "Grandpa, you are right. I don't want to live there, and I've suffered enough. But you have to have fun with them somehow." Wuxi puts her hands on her waist and says seriously, "It's time for me to learn martial arts. Most of the books Di Qianxi gave are about improving the soul and moving to new levels. But first, the girl should master family martial arts." The raven says, "Well, it's decided, just don't forget to give me 30,000 souls when the time comes." Wuxi puts her hand to her chest and says that it is natural. The girl cannot wait for Yasha to recover and appear before her. Raven looks ahead and says that these are all level 1 treasures. The dark-haired girl has not yet matured to the 2nd level. Wuxi, who is about to leave the tower, replies, "For now, this is more than enough. I will start practicing martial arts and open the door to the 2nd floor." The girl finds herself in her room. She sits down on a chair and smiles slyly. But before returning to Feng Manor, she wants to try the local delicacies. Vuxi is heading through the streets of the city, which are probably decorated for some kind of holiday. Everything looks pretty nice. Neat houses, trimmed bushes, red lanterns. The girl sees a large sign. "The best kitchen." Wuxi laughs. The name sounds pretty cute, the marketing ploy worked. Dark-haired decides to come here. Wuxi opens the door. A light breeze rushes into the stifling room and sways the cream curtain. A man in a gray suit invites Wuxi inside. "Beep, please come in." All the men in the room turn their heads towards the door. If they see they're not some worker who came to eat cheaply and quickly, but a dark-haired beauty, they immediately freeze in place with open mouths. They shamelessly look at Wuxi, look at her like a piece of meat no matter how disgusting it sounds. Their attention is drawn to the height and slenderness of the girl, her ideal forms, thin neck, and her purple eyes, framed by thick eyelashes, are more beautiful than those depicted in paintings. Soft pink lips, cheeks covered with a light blush. All this hypnotizes men. They look at the dark-haired man with drunken eyes. "Where did such a beauty come from in our Chinan? Who is she? From one of the 4 families?" asks one of them. Other men do not listen to him, but simply argue among themselves. They want Wuxi and do not hide it. Their mouths are drooling. Even when a girl proudly walks past men, they look after her and beg to look at them for a second. Vuxi sits down at an empty table. The waiter approaches the dark-haired woman and says, "Ma'am, we will not disappoint you. Today is the owner's daughter's birthday. All drinks and meals for half price. May I take your order?" The dark-haired man takes out something golden from his pocket, puts it on the table, and asks the waiter to bring the dishes. The man smiles, happy that he managed to make a good amount of money today, and tells Wuxi that everything will be ready in a minute. Street. 2 birds are sitting on a pole. The sign sways. It seems that there are new guests in this establishment. 2 girls dressed in luxurious dresses enter the room. One of them rudely addresses the waiter. "Find us a seat by the window." The man looks at the arrivals and guiltily says that all the seats near the window are taken. He invites the girls to sit on the porch. The blonde girl does not like it. "You are blind. How could you offer Our Lady to sit on the porch with beggars?" She adds that her lady is the daughter of the first family. The men in the hall are outraged. "She called us beggars. Even the maid is so impudent and rude. Someone has to teach her." The lady herself, a beautiful girl with brown hair that gives off pink, approaches the place where Wuxi is sitting, waves her hand and says to the girl, "Get out of here." The dark-haired man pretends not to notice her and enjoys his tea. The lady throws gold on the table. She closes her eyes and says proudly, "Now this is my place, go." It seems she wants to buy Wuxi's place. This sassy girl believes that having money gives her the right to command everyone. But Wuxi is going to tell her that it is not so. The dark-haired one calmly sips tea and ignores the girl. The lady narrows her eyes. He raises his eyebrows. She is not used to being disobeyed. "Do you want more money?" she spits out. Wuxi finally pays attention to the girl. The dark-haired one puts the cup on the table, looks into the eyes of this jerk and drawls, "No!" The lady grits her teeth in anger. "How dare this bitch talk to me like that?" she thinks. The girl is straining the mark in the form of a half-moon, which is located on her forehead. But Vuxi is amused by this, not frightened. The dark-haired one puts a hand to her face and laughs. This label, in her opinion, looks funny. Looks like old Sailor Moon. The lady angrily bangs her hand on the table, wanting to scare Wuxi into locking her up. She points her hand at the dark-haired man and says angrily, "You creature, do you want to die?" But Wuxi doesn't stop laughing. The girl runs her nails along the tree. 2 gold rings appear on her thin wrist. The lady puts her hand forward and directs them at Wuxi. Wuxi notices them only when the gold whizzes by a few centimeters from her face. The ring hits the table and creates a hole in it. Dark-haired understands that the girl's spiritual ability is to control metal. The lady's blow was so powerful that the bottle that was on the nearby table broke. The guests are shocked by the girl's behavior. But Wuxi is still not afraid. The girl concentrates and says to herself, "Such a cheeky and mean lady." The dark-haired man sharply puts one hand forward. The lady freezes in place and looks at Wuxi with wide eyes in shock. She did not expect that the girl would attack her in return. A silver needle, Wuxi's main weapon, falls into the lady's mark. The needle dissolves. The cheeky girl shouts at Wuxi, "Are you out of your mind, you bastard? A hidden weapon made of metal? I am a spiritual master of metals." Wuxi purses her lips and silently stares at the lady. "Of course I knew that," muses the dark-haired one. "I just wanted to check how a spiritual master's ability to absorb and dissolve any iron works." The men who have been watching the girls all this time are whispering to each other, "This is very rare. Spiritual master of fire control. The girl is in danger." The lady turns her head in their direction and smiles smugly. She likes to be feared. The girl leans her hands on the table and turns to Wuxi. She orders her to kneel down, bow to her 20 times, and apologize as many times. The dark-haired one asks, "If I do this, will you let me go?" The lady rolls her dark eyes to show her pride and reluctantly replies, "Sure, if you bang your forehead loud enough and speak your heart out. If I like it, I'll feel sorry for you." Wuxi calmly replies, "Okay, repeat what I have to say." The lady does not like the tone of the girl and her behavior in general. She bangs her hand on the table again and angrily repeats, "Ma'am, please excuse me, I'm an animal." And here the dark-haired girl does what no one expects from her. She crosses her arms over her chest and says, "Okay, I'm letting you go, beast." The men in the hall who a minute ago were afraid to utter a word begin to laugh wildly. The lady, whose dignity has just been humiliated, swings a hand with a gold metal ring at Wuxi. The dark-haired woman puts her hand forward, ready to defend herself. The ring in the air turns into a heavy chain that is quite capable of killing. This time, Wuxia does not manage to save herself. The chain wraps around her body. The dark-haired one grinds his teeth and tries to break free. The lady holding the other end of the chain in her hand smiles defiantly. "What now? Not so proud anymore." A wave of anger covers the lady. She pulls a gold chain, wanting to strangle the girl, and shouts, "I will kill you." One fat man from the hall jumps up and runs to Wuxi. He wants to help her. His companion shouts that they have no right to interfere because the impudent young lady is a member of the Murong family. Wuxi smiles slyly. She seems to have found a way to solve her problems. The girl clutches a gold chain with her hand, causing a heavenly flame. The blue light instantly turns into a huge bonfire. The lady takes a step back. She lets go of the chain because the fire burns her. The girl grabs her hand and screams in pain. Tears appear in her eyes. Her hands were burnt. Now, of course, they are not as good as before. The girl looks at Wuxi with wide eyes and says in her mind, "This is heavenly flame. She's so young, but she's already an alchemist." Those present in the room are also surprised by the abilities of the dark-haired woman. "How is it possible for a teenager to reach the rank of alchemist?" they say. One of the guests says that Chinan only has 2 top-grade alchemists, and both of them are old men. Wuxi looks like a genius in the eyes of people. Pure perfection. Calm, intelligent, wise, beautiful, and also incredibly talented. By the way, it looks very beautiful in the glow of a blue flame. The dark-haired woman crosses her arms on her chest and says to the lady, "As you yourself suggested, if you bow to me now and apologize, I'll let you go. I can even heal your scars, or you can go like this." The lady snorts angrily. She does not like that a simple quarrel with some girl turned into such a shame for her. The girl closes her eyes and lowers her head. Someone even says, "I heard that alchemists are respected by everyone. I couldn't imagine that Mrs. Morong could offend an alchemist." People in the hall stare at the girl. One man spits on the floor and says that this insolent lady is a disgrace to their family. She does not deserve the title of first daughter. The fat little man tells him, "The Morong family does not know how to raise their children." Tears begin to gather at the corners of Lady Morong's eyes. Tears of rage and insults. She grinds her teeth and drills Wuxi with a devastating look. But it does not work on dark hair. Wuxi closes her eyes and says calmly but firmly, "Morong Yu, if you don't apologize now, I won't treat your wounds. And I suppose no alchemist in town will help you after what you've done." One of the people says in a pleading tone, "Please don't be angry, ma'am." Morong Yu sharply turns his head towards this guest. Wuxi opens her eyes wide. Standing on the stairs is a tall man with waist-length black hair, dressed in an expensive blue and white kimono. He turns to Wuxi again. "I, Morong Fen, apologize for my sister. Please forgive her." Morong Fen descends the stairs without taking his eyes off the dark-haired woman. This man is handsome. Dark, narrow eyes, moderately thick eyebrows, a sharp chin. His every gesture, his every word, everything betrays him as an aristocrat. Wuxi remembers his past, how she, as a little foolish, defenseless girl, suffered at the hands of Moronga's sister, how she hated the dark-haired woman just because she was supposed to be this man's bride. Wuxi remembers how the girl and Morong himself mocked her and beat her, how the man held Morong Yu's hands and said that he would be free if his bride died. The dark-haired man snaps back to reality and narrows his eyes. "Of course you don't recognize my face," she thinks, "because you never noticed me. You are the cause of all the troubles that happened to me in the estate. Now it's payback time." But for now, the girl is not going to show open hostility towards her ex-fiancé. Instead, she decides to pretend she doesn't know him at all. The dark-haired one says to the man, "Oh, Mr. Morong, I've heard so much about you." Standing in front of his angry sister, Morong asks the dark-haired one to tell her name. The girl looks the man straight in the eyes and replies that she does not see the need to recommend herself, because their meeting is a coincidence. The man points his hand at Morong Yu and apologizes again for her actions. "If you don't want to give a name, maybe tell me where you live. One day I will send you gifts as an apology for my sister," he suggests. Here Morong Yu couldn't stand it and, still holding her burnt hand, shouted at the man, "Brother, why don't you teach her? Have you lost your mind? It was I who suffered here. You must kill her." Morong, who at first glance seems like a nice man, turns his head towards his sister and barks, "Steal the pelka! You started the fight. You should be ashamed of your behavior. Enough shouting." The man turns to face Wuxi and promises her in a serious tone that he will see to it that his sister feels the consequences of her terrible behavior. He then asks the dark-haired girl where she lives. Morong adds that his family will never dare to disrespect alchemists again. Wuxi lowers her eyes to the floor. "Now he wants to clear his family's name and reveal my identity. What a trick," she says in her mind. Wuxi smiles at the man and says to him, "I appreciate your offer, Mr. Morong, but probably I will refuse. Just ask your sister to get down on her knees and beg for forgiveness. I don't need more. I will give the medicine that heals the wounds from the heavenly flame." The man gives his sister an angry look and orders her to kneel down and apologize to the alchemist. But the lady is not going to listen to her brother. Rage boils in her veins. "No," she shouts, "why should I kneel before her? Morong can't stand it." Not only did Morong Yu disgrace his family in front of so many people, she also did not want to apologize. The man slaps her. Tears are pouring from the girl's eyes. She sobs and cries, "Brother, for what?" Her gaze is filled with resentment and hatred. Morong realizes that he has bent his stick. The man closes his eyes and exhales loudly, trying to calm down. But self-control does not come to him. He approaches his sister and starts shaking her shoulders. "If you don't get down on your knees now, your right hand will stop working. How can you not understand?" The girl's anger gradually subsides. She tries not to look at her brother, who continues to teach her. "And after today," says the man, "no alchemist will heal your wounds. So, on your knees." Morong Yu understands that the situation is serious, and she has no choice but to apologize. The girl clenches her teeth and squeezes her burnt hand, mentally preparing for her own humiliation. A second later, she falls to her knees in front of Wuxi, closes her eyes and says, "I'm sorry, madam." The dark-haired one doesn't even look in the direction of Murong Yu. The bum's brother is watching this picture. Wuxi takes out a green bottle from her bottomless sleeve. The girl extends her hand forward and addresses Murong Yu. "This is the best potion for your wound. A few drops, and the hand will be like new. Even the scars will disappear." Murong Feng bows to Wuxi and thanks her instead of his sister. "I am very grateful to you, lady. You are very kind to our family." The man waves a fan and adds, "My sister is so rude and I'm so sorry she disturbed you. Perhaps you wouldn't mind going up to the second floor, I'll treat you?" The dark-haired one sighs richly, her entire appearance showing that she is fed up with Murong. But the man is not going to give up so quickly. He runs up to Wuxi and grabs her shoulder. "Come with me." The girl does not like his behavior. But Murong Yu is already blooming and fragrant. She faintly smiles and mentally praises her brother. "Wonderful! He swallowed the bait." Wuxi turns her back to the man, crosses her arms over her chest, closes her eyes and says, "If you ask, I agree." A minute later, Murong and the girl are already climbing the stairs. The dark-haired one said with a serious look, "Your truth, it's just a misunderstanding. I hope your sister is not offended." The man smiled evilly. Wuxi fell on his hook. The second floor is a restaurant. There aren't as many people here as downstairs. It is probably a room with a great view of the city, intended for wealthy guests. Wuxi sits at the table while Murong kindly pours her tea. The man begins to question her. "You're not local, are you? Please excuse my question. I know it sounds harsh, but please tell me your name." Hot green tea pours from a small teapot. There are 2 plates with dishes near the cup. Wuxi raises a stick with a piece of meat to her lips and stares at the man. He hums quietly and pretends that he does not understand anything. Wuxi waved her hand and said, "I heard that Mr. Murong is engaged to a daughter from the main Feng family. What's more, the Feng family is giving away a rare family phoenix technique as a dowry." Murong freezes in place. His facial expression is surprised and angry at the same time. Eyebrows are raised, brown, almost black, eyes narrowed. Wuxi remembers his past again, how she cried for Murong to whom the girls clung. Meanwhile, Murong closes his eyes and raises a cup of tea to his lips. Yes, this man is a great actor, a real king of drama. The man collects his thoughts and tells Wuxi that he has never seen his bride. According to him, she is a stupid girl. "How can she even be compared to you?" asks the dark-haired Murong. Then he offers the girl to become his alchemist. Wuxi lowers her head and covers her mouth with her hand, trying to hide her laughter. Murong notices the girl's mood, but he is not going to let her go just like that. The man reaches for another piece of food with chopsticks. After a few minutes, Wuxi calms down, folds his hands together and turns to Murong. "You are seeing me for the first time and already offering the place of my wife? What about Feng Wuxi? She is your bride." The man just laughs evilly. "That crazy girl? Now he is not so polite. I will get rid of her immediately after the wedding. I promise she won't come between us." Wuxi is very annoyed by these words, but she continues to eat, trying not to show her emotions to her husband. Thoughts swirl in her head. Will he get rid of her? Right after the wedding? And he is so proud of himself. Monster! The dark-haired woman raises her hand to her chin and asks the man why he can't just break off the engagement. "Then Lady Feng will be free too," she ponders. Murong drills the girl with a surprised look. He cannot believe that such a beauty sympathizes with his talentless, mentally retarded bride. The man continues to wriggle out. "Then I will be a bad husband who left my first wife, and her life will lose its meaning. I'd rather exchange it for a rare phoenix technique. At least this way her life will be worth something." Wuxi pounds her fists on the table, her chopsticks tightly gripped in one hand. The girl no longer has the strength to hold back. She suddenly stands up and throws the cutlery on the table. The dark-haired one jumps up and runs down the stairs. People on the first floor immediately parted in front of her. Wuxi shouts to Murong Feng that she wanted to show her respect to him, but he turned out to be a beast. Wuxi raises her head and says loudly, "You are engaged to Miss Feng, but you hate her because she is ugly and stupid. And now, you want to deceive her. I hate to sit at the same table with you." Murong looks down at the dark-haired man. The man does not like Wuxi's behavior. He grips the handrails with his hands and mutters through his teeth, Yee. Guests and employees of the restaurant whisper to each other in amazement. Did she tell the truth? This is true? Is he only marrying Lady Feng for the dowry? One middle-aged man says, Poor girl, she was born stupid. Aversion to Murong appears in the eyes of many people. The dark-haired man turns his head towards Murong and says that their family is scum. Murong's eyes are bloodshot. The man furiously hits the handrail with his fist. They miraculously remain intact after such a powerful blow. It seems that something not very good is about to happen. So it is. In an instant, Murong Feng found himself downstairs, right in front of Wu Xi. The girl is somewhat shocked. She was not ready for the man to jump from the second floor. Murong roughly grabs the dark-haired man's hand. He pulls Wu Xi close and yells right in her face, You dare do that again! Fuxi, who has already taken control of herself, looks up at her husband. A challenge can be read in her look. A bunch of guests are watching the man and the girl. Wu Xi turns to Murong. What is it? The carrot didn't work and you decided to use the stick? Or, switches to you. You don't respect alchemists like your sister? Murong Feng froze in place at those words. Wu Xi gives him a cheeky smile. The man grinds his teeth in rage. He wants to hit Wu Xi, but he can't do it in public. His family has had enough shame. Wu Xi looks directly into Murong's eyes. She enjoys the effect her words have on her husband. After a few seconds, the dark-haired man yanks his hand out of Murong's firm grip. The girl turns her back to her husband and goes to the exit of the restaurant, not wanting to stay here for a second. Murong angrily asks Wu Xi, Who are you, Grandpa? The dark-haired man replies that he will soon find out. Wu Xi walks past the tables. The eyes of everyone present in the hall are directed at this beautiful and brave girl. But Murong is not going to give up so quickly. He takes out 2 red spiders from his pocket and smiles evilly. The man is sure that this haughty woman will crawl to him while still on her knees. He pushes spiders on the asphalt. They immediately find themselves next to Wu Xi, who is leisurely walking through the streets of the city. Having moved to a sufficiently large distance from the tavern, the dark-haired man looks back. I know, she says to herself. He sent some tracking magic after me. I'll just walk here until the evening. Oh, and you have to buy new pills. The girl approaches the counter where there is the product she needs and asks the seller to give her key strengthening pills, body reincarnation pills, and revitalization pills. 10 of each kind, she adds. While the seller is packing the order, a dark-haired, gray-haired cute woman from the next counter hands the girl a roll with a warm pie inside. Wuxi bites the guest. Green beans, the girl notes, are delicious. Wuxi takes the pills and walks on. The girl notices a dark-haired young man sitting in the lotus position on the grass. In front of him is a spread blanket with a bunch of small boxes. A sign near it says Secret Medicine. Night is coming. It is not very safe to return to the cottage that Mo Rong built in such darkness, so Wu Xi decides to spend the night at a local hotel. She asks the host if there are any rooms available. He asks her to go up to the second floor. A minute later, the girl is in place. She opens the door and slips inside. On the large double bed, Wu Xi sees Di Jianxi. The man supports his head with his hand and asks the dark-haired woman where she has been walking for so long. Wu Xi's eyes widen in surprise. She did not expect to see this annoying man in her hotel room. The black-haired man smiles slyly and turns to Wu Xi. What? What are you doing, you stupid woman? Wu Xi clenches her hands into fists and grinds her teeth in rage. It seems to her that the man is trying to seduce her with his defiant behavior, but the girl will not go for it. She puts her hands on her waist and says loudly, Di Jianxi, I paid for this room. You have no right to be here. The man just lazily brushes his chin and reminds the girl that he gave her the money. Wu Xi puts her hands behind her back and says, You're lying in my bed. But the man, it seems, is not at all embarrassed by this fact. He believes that he is lying in his wife's bed. Wu Xi gets even angrier. A blue light appears on her hand. Now I'm going to throw it in his face, the dark-haired man says in his mind, and there will be nothing left of you. The girl glances at the black-haired man and freezes. His face seems to her too beautiful to spoil. Di Jianxi closes his eyes and says with pathos in his voice, My bride's bed, this is my bed. Vuxini holds back. The girl clenches her teeth and directs blue fire at the black-haired man. But this attack, despite the girl's expectation, did not harm the handsome boy. The fire only lightly hit him in the lower back. Di Jianxi is a little surprised by the dark-haired girl's abilities. He approaches Wu Xi and says that she has become even more beautiful. The dark-haired man looked seriously into the man's eyes and said to himself, "Diqianshi, you are a dark spirit master." Now she understands why the flames did not burn him. A faint smile appears on the man's pale lips. He leans towards Wuxi and says seductively, "Me." The girl lowers her head. "Are you finally going to tell me?" asks the dark-haired man in his head. But the handsome boy does not continue his story. Instead, he lightly kisses the girl on the cheek. The man takes the dark-haired man by the chin and defiantly says, "Sorry, I couldn't resist." Wuxi turns her head to the side, closes her eyes and angrily replies, "It's okay, it's like a dog licked." The man's eyes widen. He thought Wuxi would melt from his kiss, but the opposite happened. Suddenly, with lightning speed, the black-haired man grabs Wuxi by the waist and hugs her to him. The girl screams, but Diqianshi doesn't pay attention to it. His expression for the first time this evening becomes focused. He takes in his hands 2 red spiders lurking on the wall. Wuxi does not understand what is happening. She clutches the black-haired man's expensive outfit with her fingers and loudly asks him, "What are you up to again?" Diqianshi shows the girl the spiders and calmly replies, "Nothing, just spiders. They could disturb you." The dark-haired girl stares at the discovery of the handsome man. The spiders on the black-haired man's palm turn to ash. Wuxi watches this spectacle with concentration. These are just a few spiders. Why was he so excited? She thinks. The black-haired man turns to the girl. "You're right, I'd better go. Good night, and I need to sort something out." The man leaves the room. Wuxi leans against the wall and thinks about Diqianshi's behavior. He's kind of strange today. What is he up to? Morning. The sun penetrates into the hotel rooms. Wuxi, who is starting to wake up, yawns and opens her eyes little by little. Beyond the darkness, she sees a red spot similar to Diqianshi's mark. Then, as her eyes adjust to the light, a clearer picture emerges. Diqianshi is sitting next to the dark-haired woman. He props his head with his hand and looks dreamily at Wuxi. The girl screams, abruptly sits on the bed and, out of fright, hits the black-haired man with a heavenly beam. Diqianshi rolls to the other side. He holds a blue flame in his hand and mocks Wuxi. "Girl, are you a pig?" Slept soundly. The dark-haired girl covers herself with a thin blanket and begins to shout at this impudent, "Grandpa, Diqianshi, what did you forget in my bed?" The man looks at Wuxi and asks, "Grandpa, who is this?" The girl angrily replies, "That means you're a freak." Although a dark-haired man likes the appearance of a man, this does not mean that he can behave so defiantly. Wuxi's words were no joke to Diqianshi. He narrows his eyes and says, "Oh, how? Are you looking for death?" The man pins the dark-haired man to the bed, intending to show the girl just how bad the head of the royal spirit sect can be. The black-haired man kisses the girl on the neck. Wuxi, suddenly blushing, retorts, "Diqianshi, your word is worthless? You promised to wait until I fell in love with you." A man pleased with the effect his cheeky kiss had on the girl. He says, "Are you scared? Ha, don't worry, I can't stand dirt, and I'll never touch a woman with dirty thoughts." The man smiles and adds, "You seduced me." Wuxi is even more angry. "What are you doing now?" The wide-eyed girl asks the black-haired man how she could seduce him in a dream. The man leans into Wuxi's face and says that she seduced him by sleeping right in front of him. The dark-haired one grinds his teeth in rage. Wuxi will not stand such impudence. The girl jumps out of bed, points her hand at the door, and orders her husband, "Sweep away." The black-haired man smiles out of the corner of his mouth, stands up and opens it with a fan. Diqianshi slowly approaches the table, leans on it with his hand, and sits down on the chair. Wuxi closes the door, realizing that it is almost impossible to drive the dark-haired man out. She crosses her arms over her chest and says, "I am returning to the Feng family today. Why did you come?" The black-haired man immediately becomes serious, and in a tone that does not tolerate arguments, says that he is going with a girl. Wuxi opens her eyes wide in shock and shouts, "No!" The dark-haired woman asks the man why he keeps getting her. Diqianshi raises the cup of tea to his face and says, "Can you stop me?" The man takes a sip of hot tea and says, "I'm going to take you with me and make you my wife. You need to worry about your safety." Wuxi leans on the table and glares at the black-haired man. Diqianshi smiles slyly. The dark-haired one sighs. She will have to give up. The girl says, "Okay, never mind." Wuxi takes out a small chest, puts it on the table, and says that reporting home just like that is boring. It is necessary to prepare something. The girl begins to paint scars on her face to pretend to be poor and unhappy in front of her family. She looks into the golden mirror on the lid of the casket. She likes the result of her work. The girl smiles and says, Great, we can go. Diqianxi looks at the dark-haired man with a shocked look. The man's head is a mess. He does not understand what is happening. Why did Wuxi disfigure her face? That girl does not pay attention to the man's reaction. She suddenly opens the door and puts her face to the sun. The birds sing. Wuxi is ready to visit her family and show them what she is capable of. Suddenly, Wuxi remembers Diqianxi and turns her head in his direction. She wonders what to do with this handsome boy. He stands out from the crowd too much. Together with him, I will not be able to pass unnoticed to the estate. No, it won't work like that. A good idea comes to the girl's mind. She laughs quietly. The dark-haired man puts the man on a chair. Now she will prepare him for that trip. The black-haired man narrows his eyes and asks, "You're up to something bad, aren't you?" The girl picks up a makeup brush and tells the man that he needs to make a monster out of it. Wuxi rummages through the makeup chest, looking for something suitable for the black-haired man. Diqianxi is not happy with this idea. "You want to put these weird things on my face?" The man crosses his arms on his chest and categorically says that this should not happen. Wuxi spreads his hands. She doesn't understand Diqianxi's reaction. Why? You're a man. Why worry so much about your face? This offends the black-haired man. He grunts in displeasure and turns away from the girl, waving his luxurious hair. Wuxi opens her eyes wide and raises her eyebrows slightly. Diqianxi is so afraid of dirt, she thinks. But the dark-haired man is not going to listen to the man. Wuxi takes out a brush from the chest. Diqianxi doesn't have time to say anything as the dark-haired man brushes his cheek. Wuxi squints, smiles, and happily says, "Got it." She believes that she did everything right. The man narrows his eyes and says, "Ah, you!" Diqianxi stands up abruptly, intending to take revenge on the defiant girl. But Wuxi is saved by the creaking of the door. Mo Rong enters the room. The boy scratches his head and looks at the dark-haired man and his master. The old man notices the scratches on Diqianxi's face and asks the black-haired man, "Who did this to your face? Who should I kill?" The black-haired man scowls at Wuxi. The girl covers her mouth with her hand and laughs quietly. Then the black-haired man does something that Wuxi did not expect at all. He closes his eyes, points to the dark-haired man, and says seriously, "My girlfriend drew this, and I like it." Mo Rong's expression immediately changed. The boy claps his hands and turns to the dark-haired woman. "Miss Feng, you are a makeup genius. I admire you." Wuxi smiles sweetly at the doorman and turns his gaze to Diqianxi. Wuxi shakes her head, narrows her eyes, and says to herself, "Fool, your servant behaves better than you." The black-haired man closes his eyes and grunts unhappily. He believes that he has accomplished a feat by lying for his bride. Mo Rong, careful not to divide the man, says, "But this is not very befitting of our clan head. Maybe it's better to wash off the makeup." Diqianxi scratches his chin thoughtfully and agrees with the man. But Wuxi seems against the handsome boy washing away her efforts. She crosses her arms over her chest and says, "If you can't get ugly, then you can't go with me." Mo Rong opens his eyes wide and says that he has an idea on how to hide Diqianxi's beauty. The old man blinks his eyes and takes out a carnival mask from his pocket. Silver carnival mask. Black-haired and Wuxi stare at the thing in silence. To put it mildly, they are surprised by Mo Rong's proposal. However, the boy does not pay attention to this and hands the mask to his master. "Do you want me to wear this dread?" Diqianxi snarled through his teeth. Mo Rong is silent. The black-haired man understands that he has no choice, so he puts the mask on his handsome face anyway. "Well," the man says, waiting for Wuxi's reaction. He holds the mask in his hand and turns to his bride. The girl opens her eyes wide. Although Diqianxi has hidden his face behind a mask, he still looks incredible. It is impossible to find a thing that would spoil his appearance. But Wuxi won't tell her husband. He can please his own ego without her. Therefore, the girl modestly nods her head and says, "It doesn't matter. We need to get home as soon as possible." Mo Rong, Diqianxi, and Wuxi set off. They quickly pass the mountains and reach the city closer to the evening. The people they meet on the way discuss Wuxi's appearance. "Look, this is a fool from the Feng family. So many scars on the face. Terribly." Diqianxi glares red-eyed at everyone who speaks poorly of the dark-haired man. A man is very annoyed by people who lack a sense of tact. He clenches his hands into fists and says to the men standing not far from him, "One more word, and you are dead." The black-haired man is not kidding. Others understand this and run in different directions. One little boy runs up to his mother and says that Di-chun-shi is scaring him. But our three travelers do not pay attention to this. After a few minutes, they find themselves in the main square of the city, where there are tall and majestic buildings. Wuxi, Di-chun-shi, and Mo-rong see a crowd of people. They gathered around a huge stone. A man is attached to him. Di-chun-shi grunted, expressing his surprise like this. Vuxi asks inexplicably to whom. "What's going on here?" The girl looks closely at the face of the bound and exhausted man. Little red spiders crawl on it. Wuxi recognizes Murong Feng, her former fiancé, in this unfortunate man. The man stands half naked. Part of his body is covered by a dirty rag. Murong Feng was chained to a huge stone, the stone of shame, with several strong golden chains. Wuxi does not understand how the young master of the Murong family could find himself in such a position. The girl opens her eyes wide and asks herself, what happened to him? Red spiders all over the body? Suddenly, the dark-haired man remembers that it was these spiders that Di-chun-shi killed in their room last night. Did Murong send them for Wuxi? Dark-haired freezes in place. The dark-haired one turns his gaze to Di-chun-shi and asks, "Your job, right?" He just snorts quietly and puts his hands behind his back. After a second, the black-haired man adds that this is just a minor punishment. Di-chun-shi believes that Murong deserves to die for his actions. Wuxi glares at the black-haired man and asks what Murong Feng did to him, although she herself perfectly guesses why the handsome man hates this man so much. The man calmly answers, "Nothing, it's just that he liked to play with spiders, so I sent him a few." Wuxi raises a finger to his chin and thinks, "Of course Murong wouldn't leave me behind just like that." She is glad that Di-chun-shi helped intervene in this matter. Suddenly, the black-haired man grabs the girl's hand. Wuxi flinches slightly in surprise and asks angrily, "What else do you want from me?" The black-haired man pulls the girl by the hand and says, "Let's go faster. Where are you looking?" Wuxi doesn't really understand the man's excitement and asks to let her go. The handsome man says that it's okay to watch a naked man being bitten by spiders. This couple is watched by Mo-rong. The conversation between Di-chun-shi and Wuxi is so interesting that he is willing to watch it forever. Only readers or some other snacks are missing. In Vuxi's imagination, the pictures in which the family members mocked her appear again. For example, how hard Vuxin beat her, how her uncle scolded her, as she lay unconscious in a dirty pig pen. But those times have already passed. Wuxi is now a powerful alchemist, not a silly little girl. She is ready to repay everyone who hurt her. The dark-haired man summons a heavenly flame and says, "From now on, my revenge begins." Feng family estate. Wuxi, Di-chun-shi, and Mo-rong are standing outside the house. The dark-haired one tries to convince the man and his servant that she does not need to be accompanied. They reluctantly agree. Di-chun-shi walks up to Wuxi, gently touches her face with his hand and says, "Be careful, you stupid woman." Handsome and Mo-rong walk away. The dark-haired one wonders why they let her do it all by herself so easily. But everything is not so simple. The man and the boy only pretended to leave Wuxi. In fact, they climbed onto the roof of the house and are now drinking alcohol there. Mo-rong asks Di-chun-shi if they must be with the girl. He answers, "Yes." Meanwhile, the workers of the Feng family approach the house. They welcome Wuxi back home. This surprises the girl. Why are they so polite? She thinks, I was only gone for 2 weeks. One of the workers, a man in a gray uniform, approaches the dark-haired woman and says, "Ma'am, you came just in time. The owner has just returned from his travels." The dark-haired man looks indifferently at the servant. Now everything is clear. The man, who does not receive any response from Wuxi, begins to get angry. He crosses his arms over his chest and rudely asks, "What? Idiot fucked up again?" Zero emotions. The worker clenches his teeth. His face contorts with anger. He points his finger at Wuxi and says, "Hey, I heard that the owner has returned to the estate." The dark-haired one puts a finger to her chin and asks the man how dare he address her like that. The girl smiles evilly and says in her mind, "Insolent, you're just a butcher." The man's eyes widen in surprise. It seems that it is beginning to dawn on him that Wuxi is not as stupid as before. She got her mind back? says the butcher in his mind. The man understands that now he will have to treat the girl politely. He scratches the back of his head and tells the dark-haired woman that her master has asked her to join the reception at the Hall of Justice. Wuxi snorts, turns her back to the butcher and strides confidently into the Hall of Justice, and here she is in place. The inscription on the sign above the door indicates that the dark-haired woman did not confuse anything. A girl walks into a hall full of people. Respectable members of the family sit on chairs while the servants stand. In the center of the room there is a large chair in which the head of the family sits. Wuxi greets him. A gray-haired man with a short goatee and long hair, part of which is tied up in a bun, warmly says, "Wuxi." The head of the family is happy to see his granddaughter. Suddenly, a wave of strange feelings covers the girl. It warms the heart. Dark-haired guesses that these are the remains of the soul of the previous owner of the body. Their souls begin to merge. The head of the family carefully watches the dark-haired woman, realizing that something is happening. "Is my little girl cured?" he asks himself in shock. Wuxi almost runs to the gray-haired man, opening his arms for a hug. "Grandpa, I'm so glad you're back from your travels," the dark-haired man says sincerely. The head of the family asks the girl to come and sit next to him. Wu Xin's father, one of Wuxi's uncles, grits his teeth in rage. He does not like that the head of the family likes the dark-haired man so much. The man wants to kill the girl as soon as possible, and it starts working right now. He stands up and addresses the dark-haired grandfather. "Head! Wuxi ignored the rules of our family. She deliberately lied to her sister, injured her arm, and even broke her legs." The girl's uncle raises his eyebrows and asks the head of the family to punish the dark-haired man. Wuxi glares angrily at the man. She guessed that he wouldn't let her rest, especially after her fight with Wu Xin in the library. People like him don't change. The girl remembers how this man struck her with lightning and almost killed her. She still feels that terrible pain. Her uncle is a real freak. The dark-haired man turns sharply to Wu Xin's father and clenches his hands into fists. Now she really wants to give him a good stab. How dare he accuse Wuxi of anything when she almost died because of him? There is silence in the hall. All the eyes of those present are directed at Wuxi. The girl begins to speak calmly to her head. "Grandpa, Wu Xin started that quarrel. I defended myself, but she used the fiery phoenix technique. Her strength was not enough and she suffered." The head of the family smiles. "The sage's prophecy is fulfilled," he says in his mind. "My girl has become smarter." Wu Xi waved her hand and continued to explain the whole situation to Grandpa. "Feng Wulin is my brother, but he destroyed my house and wanted to kill me. He was the first to disregard family rules. As the first daughter, I had to punish him." This is where Wu Xin comes into play. The girl gets up from her chair, lowers her head, and tells the head and elders that she did not come to the Hall of Justice to apologize or make excuses. The girl raises her hand to her chin and says that she was seriously injured during the fight with her sister. Therefore, this year, she probably won't be able to defend the honor of the Feng family in the tournament. Tears appeared in Wu Xin's eyes. "I'm afraid now I'm too weak to participate in the tournament of the 4 main families. Therefore, I ask the masters and elders to think again about the punishment for Wuxi." Wu Xi looks back at her sister, who is already standing behind her. The dark-haired woman understands that now Wu Xin is just playing a cheap show and shifting all the blame to her. The 2 elders believe that Wu Xi has crossed the line and must be punished for it. Another gray-haired man supports them. "Head, although Wu Xin is young, it is unlikely that her body will fully heal. The family won't understand if you don't punish Wu Xi." The dark-haired man looks at his uncle's angry face, Wu Xing's sad face, and the serious face of one of the elders. The girl lowers her head and says to herself, "Looks like they were all conspiring against me from the beginning." But the head of the family is in no hurry to immediately punish the dark-haired man. He folds his hands together, leans forward a little, and asks the girl how she will explain all this. The dark-haired one answers the counter-questions. "Chairman and elders, isn't personal strength the greatest value of our family?" Everyone silently agrees to this. The girl points to her older sister and continues. "Even if she failed her participation in the tournament, I'm still the first daughter of the main family. Do I need to be punished for self-defense?" Wuxin is shaking with rage. The head of the family is satisfied with the girl's words. He proudly raises his head. Yes, this is his granddaughter. One of the elders touches his beard with his hand and wonders, why is it so difficult to get along with this fool? Wuxin clenches her hands into fists and says angrily to the dark-haired woman, "Sister, why are you making such assumptions? We are relatives, I would never kill you." The dark-haired one smiles out of the corner of his mouth and crosses his arms over his chest. With obvious sarcasm in her voice, Wuxin adds, "Well, it looks like Wuxi has fully recovered and learned to speak, but the idea that strength is the only rule is not bad." The pink-haired girl's eyes sparkle and she smiles evilly. Wuxi replies in the same tone, "Oh, are you serious?" Wuxin drills her younger sister with a murderous gaze of brown eyes and says, "Totally." The dark-haired one can't hold back and starts laughing. The head puts one hand on his knee and asks his beloved granddaughter, "Don't you agree?" He doesn't seem to mind the girls having a duel at all. Meanwhile, Di Qianxi and Mo Rong are still sitting on the roof. They perfectly hear what is happening inside. Di Qianxi tells the boy, "She wants to compete with my woman with such low spiritual powers. Ridiculously." The servant does not answer him. The man and Mo Rong look at the small copper bell hanging on the corner of the roof. We move to the room again. Wuxi crosses her arms over her chest and replies to the head that she fully agrees that strength is the most important thing in this world. The girl points her hand at Wuxing and adds, "However, why do you decide that my abilities are worse than my sister's?" Wuxin purses her lips and wonders how someone born without spiritual powers dares to ask such questions. The head of the family asks the dark-haired man, "Wuxi, are you claiming that you are now stronger than Wuxin?" The girl smiles and confidently answers that it is indeed so. And here Wuxin does not hold back. She points her finger at her sister and shouts, "Delirious, you don't even have spiritual powers. How dare you consider yourself better than me?" The scars from the pink-haired girl's body magically disappear. The people present in the hall notice this. Wuxin is healed? It looks like she's healthy. The elder, who has long since bitten off the pink hair, raises his eyebrows and says in his mind, "For her, the honor of the family is just a joke." Wuxi smiles slyly. Vuxin, on the other hand, falls silent, realizing that her plan to evoke pity from family members has failed. The dark-haired one closes her eyes, preparing to say something. The girl turns to the head of the family. "Grandfather, I know that my stupidity and weakness have harmed the clan. I'm sorry that I became a disgrace to the whole family." The dark-haired woman turns her head to the side and continues, "But now I'm healthy, and as a daughter of the main family, she is ready to defend the honor of our clan. That's why I haven't been there for the last 2 weeks. I learned a lot during this time." Wuxin grinds his teeth in rage. She really dislikes the fact that Wuxi is the daughter of the main family. It annoys her even more that the girl is not ashamed of it. The dark-haired one ignores her sister's annoyance and says, "Since strength decides everything, why don't I compete with my older sister? Let's find out which of us is stronger." The head of the family raises his hand and tells the girl to cool down. The competition can wait. Now is not the best time to figure out a relationship. But Wuxin doesn't seem to be going to listen to his grandfather. She takes out a fire whip and swings it sharply in the air. The pink-haired girl turns to her younger sister. "What are you waiting for? Let's start." Wuxi glares angrily at Wuxin. The girl knew that this impudent brat would listen to the head of the family and decide to fight. Wuxi and Wuxin's grandfather is angry with the eldest granddaughter. He raises his eyebrows and narrows his brown eyes. How is she not ashamed? The man thinks. He decides to stop this performance. Wuxin's hand with the whip freezes. The girl does not understand what is happening and looks at her grandfather and Wuxi in shock. The dark-haired one drills the older sister with an indifferent look and says, "Sister, if Grandpa said to wait, there is a reason. Why such anger?" Wuxin realizes that she really had better obey the head of the family. The girl clutches her fiery whip in her hand and says, "Yes, as you say." Wuxi and Wuxin's grandfather waves his hand and says, "There is still 1 month left before the family air competition. In this month, you, Wuxi, must learn the martial arts of technique." The man ends his speech by saying that girls don't have to show their strength now. It is better to wait for the day of the competition. Wuxi smiles. "The airs competition is so soon," says the girl in her mind. Wuxin, who has calmed down a little, raises her finger to her chin and asks the head if the result of the competition concerns the inheritance. The man drills his eldest granddaughter with a somewhat stern look. He does not like Wuxin's impertinent and tactless behavior at all. In the end, he answers, "Yes, the one who wins the competition will get the right to the inheritance. This year, children from side branches will participate in the competition." Vuxin's eyes twinkle. The girl looks at her sister Vuxia. Wuxi crosses her arms over her chest and mentally notes, I knew that simple-minded rude girl would play gentle to get sympathy. Then the dark-haired man looks at Vuxia. Ta notices this and slyly smiles back. Wuxi wonders if Feng Wuxi expects to participate in the tournament. The roof of the Hall of Justice. The meeting has already ended. The bell was covered with some kind of cardboard. Only the head of the family and Wuxi remained inside the room. A man holds his beloved granddaughter in his arms. The dark-haired one looks at him with wide eyes. She is pleased to be treated this way, but she understands that this love is intended for the original owner of the body. The man looks into Wuxi's eyes and says, From now on you will live in your mother's house, in Baizu. I will have several maids attached to you. The girl opens her mouth in surprise. Baizu, she says in her mind, that's my mother's name. That is the name of the mother of the first owner. Mine for a while. Wuxi stands at the entrance to Baizu's courtyard. Nice place. Behind the girl are two maids. The brunette really likes her new home. Suddenly, the dark-haired woman's expression turns sad. She thinks about how to find her missing parents and confirm her guesses. The dark-haired woman and the maids walk into the great courtyard. There is even a river that washes the house. One of the maids tells the girl about this place. This is the most elegant house in the estate. All these trees and herbs were planted by your mother. The girls go to the terrace. Wuxi leans on the railing and asks the maids what their names are. One of them awkwardly replies that they are just maids, so it's not that important. However, the girl doesn't think so. You don't have to call yourself maids, just say your names. The dark-haired girl likes these girls, so she tries to be friendly with them. The girl in the pink kimono smiles and politely replies, Thank you, ma'am. My name is Hong Yin and her name is Li Xiang, pointing to her friend. The chief took us off the street after our families died. The girl flashes her eyes and continues. He taught us martial arts and we served in the combat pavilion. That is why we know all the tricks of the Feng family. The dark-haired one is immediately interested in this. Have you watched those who are practicing? And read all the martial arts books in the library? The girls, blushing a little, look at each other, smile and nod. Wuxi mentally thanks her grandfather for sending her such good maids. The girl waves her hand, sweetly squints her eyes and says to the maids, Great, let's move on. Tell me about the fighting techniques. The girls gladly follow her. Wuxi confidently opens the door of the house and goes inside. Here she sees Di Qianxi. The man holds a book in his hands and smiles. This old man is a real pain in the ass. The dark-haired woman narrows her eyes and raises her eyebrows. She is not very happy about Di Qianxi's appearance, but before the girl has time to say a word, two maids run up to her husband. They get into defensive positions and shout, Who are you? Hong Yin released a huge red snake from his sleeve, heading straight for the black-haired man. The maid herself menacingly asks her husband, You broke into private rooms. Why are you here? Li San joins Hong Yin. The girl is holding something that looks like a flat bottle and a guitar in her hand at the same time. A very strange item, to be honest. He instantly becomes huge. Li San, imitating her friend, yells at Di Qianxi, Ha! Even relatives are not allowed to appear here. The girl presses the object to her chest and puts her hand forward. The girls approach each other and direct their spiritual forces to the man. They do this very carefully so as not to accidentally harm the lady. Di Qianxi raises his eyebrows and narrows his eyes. The man takes something from the sleeve of his kimono and throws it directly at the giant snake covered in a blue glow. But it explodes loudly. But the maids are not going to give up so quickly. Li San continues to play his guitar, picking the strings quickly with his fragile fingers. Di Qianxi leans back in his chair, crosses his arms over his chest, closes his eyes and says, Good music, but weak. At the same time, the man smiles. The girls are very angry at the audacity of the black-haired man. Vuxi silently observes this picture, leaning against the door. The dark-haired one didn't think that the maids had such good martial arts skills. Di Qianxi ignores the annoyance of the maids. He lowers his head and looks at the book on his lap. The man looks focused. Wuxi purses her lips and drills the black-haired man with a somewhat angry look. He does not notice her or simply ignores her. The girl coughs loudly. Then she approaches the maids and says, Everything is fine. This uninvited guest is my friend. Don't worry. The girls look at their mistress in surprise. Li Sang and Hong Yin look at each other. They think about where Wuxi could find such a man. No one has even a guess. After dealing with the maids, the dark-haired man approaches Di Qianxi. The girl is no longer angry with him. Instead, she asks what book he is reading so intently. Wuxi looks at the letters and guesses, "There are various spiritual techniques written here." The man, not taking his eyes off the text, says that these are stories. The girl smiles slyly. "Di Qianxi," she says in her mind, "are you the type who likes fairy tales? I didn't think that such books were written in this world." The black-haired man feels Wuxi's gaze on him. He finally raises his head and, with a note of irritation in his voice, asks, "Woman, why are you looking at me like that?" Wuxi realizes that she has been caught. Dark-haired looks at the text and says confusedly, "Yes, nothing." "Di Qianxi, what kind of stories do you like?" The man turns the pages and says that he doesn't like to read. The dark-haired one doesn't quite understand. "Then why are you flipping through the book?" Di Qianxi smiles at the corner of his mouth. A minute later, the man puts the book on the table. He taps her with thin, long fingers, trying not to look at the dark-haired one. But he does not succeed. The look of red eyes meets the look of purple eyes. The girl notices that Di Qianxi is blushing. The dark-haired man's mouth fell open in surprise. "Can he blush?" she says in her mind. "Can this brat blush?" Wuxi can't believe it. The black-haired man immediately closes his eyes. The girl leans even closer to him and asks, "I wonder, look at me, Di Qianxi." The man says, "Morong says that telling women stories is a good way to win them over, and I think I should try it." Di Qianxi widened his eyes and asked the dark-haired man, "Hey woman, do you like stories?" The girl is embarrassed by this strangely worded question. Then she covers her mouth with her hand and squints. She is very amused by the handsome man's behavior. She can't hold back and starts laughing to the point of tears. Di Qianxi offendedly asks the dark-haired woman what she is laughing at. He doesn't think he said anything funny. "Is she laughing at me?" the man worries. Wuxi continues to giggle, unable to say anything. Di Qianxi starts to get angry. "You stupid woman, how dare you laugh?" He furrows his brows. The girl calms down, bites her finger and says to her husband with irony in her voice, "Ah ha ha ha, yes, I love stories. Read to me." The man looks down at the book and says, "Okay, then let's get started." The maids watching this picture smile and look at each other. Di Qianxi seems quite cute to them when he's not acting like a world lord. The girls decide to leave the sweet couple alone and quietly leave the room. Laughing, Li San carefully closes the door. Wuxi sits down on the chair across from Di Qianxi and leans her elbow on the table, ready to listen. The man begins, "Once upon a time, a long time ago." His voice is calm and measured. He reads carefully, trying to convey the emotions and characters of the characters through his voice. Wuxi looks at the handsome boy, unable to look away. The dark-haired one smiles sweetly and says to himself, "Looks like he's really serious about the relationship." Night is coming. A bunch of small stars can be seen in the sky. They shine quite brightly. The full moon illuminates the earth. Little fireflies will appear near Wuxi's new house. The girl yawns loudly, covering her mouth with her hand. She is very tired, and Di Qianxi's melodious voice is slowly putting her to sleep. The dark-haired one says, "Well, looks like enough stories for today. We will continue tomorrow, and now I'm going to bed." The man seriously tells Wuxi that he will sleep with her. The girl raises her eyebrows, closes her eyes, and says that this should not happen. Although Di Qianxi is not bad, she is not going to sleep with him now. The dark-haired one turns to the maid sitting outside the door sleeping. "Hong Yin Li Xiang, open the door and lead him out of here." A girl in a pink kimono wakes up. Li San also widened his eyes after a moment. Maids follow the orders of their mistress. Hong Yin glared at the black-haired man, waiting for him to come out on his own. But the man is in no hurry to do this. He turns his gaze to Wuxi. The girl waves her hand and innocently asks him, "What's the matter, boss? Don't you want to go?" Di Qianxi narrows his eyes. He does not like the audacity of the girl. He has done so much for her, and she allows herself to openly mock him. The man leans over to Wuxi and says, "If you say the word go one more time, I'll do it to you today." The black-haired man's voice sounds serious. Di Qianxi pointed a finger at the bed and continued, "Right there, tonight." Wuxi turns her head towards the bed. Her husband's words shock her. The maids are covered in red paint. Wuxi grits her teeth in rage and says to herself, "Until I can throw him out the door." The dark-haired one gives the man a tight smile and says, "Well, you see, tomorrow I have to learn martial arts from these sisters, so I can't chill in your company." The man waves his hand and asks Wuxi, "Do you want to learn martial arts from them?" Their skills are primitive. The maids are outraged by such impudence. Wuxi puts a finger to his chin and calmly explains to the black-haired man. They have been guarding the art library for years. Only they can teach me the fighting techniques of the family. The man scratches his cheek and expresses doubt that these two have learned all of Feng's martial arts. He doesn't mean to offend the girls, but it's true. Maids are not offended. Li Xiang turns to Wu Shi. Ma'am, we are glad that you trust us, but we only have basic skills. As for medium-level techniques and above, we weren't allowed to learn them. The dark-haired one rests her head on her hand and says to the handsome man, I know that perfectly well. I'm just trying to find a way to get you out of my mind. Di Qiangxi gives a sly smile and mockingly indignant. Hey, woman! Wu Shi is annoyed. She pouted and said, Enough of calling me a woman. My name is Feng Wuxi. The man closes his eyes and calmly says, Okay, Feng Wuxi, you are my bride. These maids are not worthy to teach you. It will be a shame. I will personally teach you. The girl opens her mouth in surprise. Such a strong spirit master wants to teach me, she says in her mind. Quite strange. Di Qianxi is amused by the dark-haired woman's reaction. What? Asks the man. You look as if they are forcing you to recognize the criminal as your father. Your husband will be your teacher. Shouldn't you be happy? Di Qianxi is standing on the little bridge leading to the dark-haired woman's house. Still, he was kicked out of the room. The man crosses his arms over his chest and is indignant. This dead woman does not know how to behave at all. Mo Rong watches the man from the side and reminds him, Boss, the dead moon period is coming soon, you need rest. The black-haired man looks at the moon peeking out from behind the clouds and hums thoughtfully. The man looks at his hands, on which a black pair appears and says, She's getting harder and harder to suppress. Mo Rong walks up to his master and says, Boss, we can make Wu Shi and... But he does not agree to the end. Di Qianxi drills him with a murderous gaze. A man will never allow his bride to be forced to do something. Mo Rong realizes that he is at fault. The old man closes his eyes, lowers his head and says, Forget it, pretend I didn't say that. He does not want the man to be angry. Suddenly Mo Rong's eyes widen at the realization of his master's behavior. The boy mentally notes, now he wants a lot more from her than just a prophecy. But the boy does not show his shock to the man. Instead, he tells Di Qianxi, Boss, there are rooms available in the manor. We can choose any and relax. Di Qianxi finally succeeds in suppressing the black couple. The man clenches his teeth and says to the servant, Okay, then build a house and then you will rest. Mo Rong scratched the back of his head and cautiously asked his master, Build a house? But where? Di Qianxi pointed his finger at the clearing and said, Right here, I will sleep next to her. Mo Rong directs his spiritual power at the tree. Our head has changed too much, thinks the young man. He became somewhat moody. Apparently, this is the influence of dark forces, or Vuxi. A few hours later, Mo Rong completes the construction. But the man is dissatisfied. No, no, and no, the walls are too bright. They should be discreet and luxurious. Understand? An upset Mo Rong reworked, folded his arms over his chest and asked, How about this? Now they are a soft gray shade. But Di Qianxi still doesn't like it. It's peasant, and so many more times. Mo Rong drove around until morning. Finally, his master is more or less satisfied with the result. Okay, it's still rough, but it'll go away. A tired Mo Rong falls on the grass and says, Chief, I am your assistant and bodyguard. I cultivated so much to protect you, not to build you houses. Di Qianxi himself walks up to the door of the dark-haired woman's house and pulls on the handle. Yeah, so she locked the door from the inside, he notes. But the man is not upset. With the help of dark forces, he silently opens the door and enters the house to see how his bride is. Di Qianxi sees that the girl is still sleeping. The man runs over to Wuxi's bed and lifts her up with one hand. The man says, What is this? It's already noon, and you're still sleeping. The girl kicks and screams for the black-haired man to let her go. The dark-haired woman rubs her eyes and is indignant. I just closed my eyes after night meetings. I didn't even get a good night's sleep. The maids, who have also just woken up, greet Wu Shi. Good morning, lady. Dark-haired Hong Yin and Li Xiang walk out into the courtyard and freeze in place in shock. In front of them stands a luxurious house. Wu Shi asks in shock, He built a house in my yard? The girl did not expect such audacity. Di Qianxi stands outside her residence with her arms crossed over her chest and says to the maids, I am going to teach this woman martial arts. Today you are free. Li Xiang yawns. Hong Yin huffs. She does not like this man and his brash behavior. The maids go somewhere, leaving Wuxi with the black-haired man. Di Qianxi shows the girl a huge jewel. This is a soul-testing stone. It can measure the power of spiritual energy and its properties. Pour a drop of blood on him and release all your spiritual powers. Wuxi bites the finger with her teeth and raises her hand to the stone. A drop of red blood falls down. Di Qianxi clenches his hands into fists for some reason. A man cannot look at a girl's blood. He turns away and squints. "Devil," he says in his mind. "It's just a small wound. Why am I so nervous?" Wuxi leans her hands on the table and glances at the man, waiting for further instructions. The black-haired man crosses his arms over his chest and orders the girl to begin. The dark-haired one says, "Okay." For a few more seconds, she looks at her husband with wide-open eyes, not understanding his sudden change of mood. Suddenly, the black-haired man stops Wuxi. He takes something out of the sleeve of his kimono. The man puts a small purple bottle on the table and says that the girl needs to use the healing ointment first. Di Qianxi rests his hand on the table, gently takes Wuxi's hand and looks at the girl's injured finger, checking to see if it is okay. After making sure everything is fine, Di Qianxi says it's time to start. Wuxi closes her eyes and concentrates as much as possible on her spiritual powers. The girl waves her hands. A blue glow appears, enveloping her. The stone begins to shine brightly, changing color and absorbing the spiritual power of the dark-haired woman. Some inscription appears on it. Wuxi ponders. "I know that Tian is the lowest level, but what do these colors mean?" The girl decides to ask her teacher. "Di Qianxi, what do these colors mean? I have white, blue, and green." The man smiles out of the corner of his mouth and says, "You want to know." He proudly raises his chin, closes his eyes and says what he will tell if the girl promises to marry him. Di Qianxi hides the stone in the sleeve of his kimono. The girl is indignant. "Oh, Di Qianxi, you yourself promised to teach me martial arts and now you don't want to explain? If so, you better leave now." Di Qianxi raised his eyebrows and glared at Wuxi. The man slaps his hand on the table and angrily says, "Feng Wuxi, who gave you permission to speak to me in such a tone?" The girl just as angrily replies, "And what?" The head of the sect is so used to flattery that he cannot understand the common language of a commoner. Di Qianxi begins to approach the dark-haired woman menacingly. The girl steps back. Suddenly, she rests her white shoe against the wall. Wuxi asks the man what he is doing. The black-haired man purses his lips and says, "Dead woman, just try saying something like that to me again." Wuxi raises her eyebrows. "Di Qianxi, you're asking." The man takes the girl's face in his hands and kisses her. One of the black-haired man's hands rests on Wuxi's waist. The girl barely spoke. "Di Qianxi." The man doesn't say anything, only holds her closer to him. The girl squints. She does not understand whether she likes it or not. A second later, the dark-haired man pushes Di Qianxi away and tells him to stop. The girl grinds her teeth. Di Qianxi leans against the wall and says, "And after that, you still ask what I want?" The black-haired man says that he only needs Wuxi, and no one else, but these words do not make an impression on the dark-haired. She steps aside and throws heavenly flames at the man. Di Qianxi flies off to the side. Wuxi's punch is so powerful. It seems that the man himself did not expect this. In principle, as well as the fact that the girl will be angry with him. Wuxi's face is full of anger. How dare this brazen idiot approach her? What does he need at all? He only wants to sleep with a dark-haired woman. The flame would have burned the dark-haired man if he had not managed to cover himself with his sleeve at the last moment. Wuxi folds her arms and lowers her head. She looks upset. Di Qianxi, on the other hand, is pleased that everything turned out this way. He crosses his arms over his chest, smiles slyly, and drills Wuxi with a defiant look. The girl collects her thoughts, clenches her hands into fists and shouts directly into the man's face. "I want to practice. Do you understand? Enough to climb up to me?" The man smiles with the corner of his mouth. Wuxi seems very cute to him when she is angry. And in any case, she is a nice girl. It's just that Di Qianxi will never tell her that. A flame appears on the black-haired man's hand. The man looks at him and says, "Forget low-level martial arts. My woman must start with the strongest techniques." A circle with stars appears around the dark-haired man's palm. The man explains, "This is a 9-star technique, a deadly martial art. The reason it is so powerful is because every star has the same attribute." The girl raises her finger to her lips and thinks, There is still a whole month until the tournament of heirs. For the competition, I need to develop at least 3 spirit stars. However, this technique requires the alignment of all 9 elements. The dark-haired woman thinks about which elements she should use better. Di Qianxi folds his arms across his chest, leans on the table and mockingly asks Wuxi, "Are you scared? Afraid to spend a day cultivating at least 1 star?" Then the man dismisses the jokes. He gently says, "Take your time. Everything will work out for you when you perfect at least 1 spiritual star. Do you know the attributes of your soul?" The girl turns around and proudly walks towards the house before saying a single word. "Understood." The man looks after Wuxi and calls out to her, "Hey, woman!" The dark-haired woman, who is very annoyed by such an address, turns around, flashes her eyes and angrily asks the man, "I told you that I have a name. What's wrong again?" The black-haired man unfolds the book and mysteriously says, "In the afternoon I will teach you practice, and at night," he raises the book to his chin, "we will read stories." Martial Arts Pavilion. People rush here and there. Recently, everyone has been actively training, and it is not surprising. After all, a grand tournament will take place very soon. Wuxi also comes to training. The girl opens the door of the pavilion. Now people calmly react to dark hair. Few people laugh at her. Inside the room, the girl sees Wuxin and Wushu, who are talking sweetly to each other. They discuss Wuxi's abilities and laugh at the girl. Wuxi narrows her eyes. She understands that now these two are together. Wuxia notices her younger sister and says to her, "Hey, Wuxia, have you come to read martial arts books?" Wuxin also greets Wuxi. "Ugly sister, let's get out of here. Let's continue our argument elsewhere." The pink-haired one takes Wuxia by the hand. The girl pushes Wuxi. Dark-haired thinks that Wuxia is even more sneaky and cunning than Wuxin. She very skillfully hides her hatred for someone. You never know what to expect from her. Wuxia turns to her sister and sweetly apologizes. The dark-haired man recalls the incident in the bathhouse, when Wuxia and her maid were discussing who was easier to defeat. The girl said with a smile that it would be much easier to defeat Wuxi than Wuxin. The maid immediately understood what was going on. Wuxi's kindness to her younger sister will play into her hands. The head will respect her. Wuxia even praised her maid for her cleverness. That is why Wuxi is not upset now because of her sister's attitude towards her. The girl calmly reads a book. The dark-haired woman understands that sooner or later Wuxia will also betray Wuxin. You just have to wait and enjoy the show. Wuxi trains to the limit, exhausting his body every day. At night, instead of lullabies, she listens to stories that Di Qianxi reads to her. The girl wakes up very early, before the first roosters, and immediately, without even opening his eyes, he runs to practice martial arts. Due to Di Qianxi's stories, which the young man literally forced him to listen to, the dark-haired man falls asleep later than the night owls. But not that the girl is very against the company of the black-haired man. Reading turned into a daily, or rather an evening ritual. Di Qianxi sits down in a comfortable chair, picks up a book and begins to read. And Wuxi sits opposite and rests her elbow on the table. Now the black-haired man is reading a book about monsters and ghosts to the girl. "This book tells about monsters that existed in ancient times," says the man. He picks up a paintbrush, pulls a piece of paper towards him and begins to draw, saying in parallel, "Although all these stories are made up, spirit animals exist in this world." Something resembling a hare appears on the paper. Wuxi watches her husband's work. Di Qianxi continued, "They can transform into humans, speak our language, and their lives are very long." Wuxi lowers her head and brushes her chin. Okay, she muses. "Spirit monsters, I know one such, the ancient raven." In the dark-haired girl's imagination, Yasha appears, sneezing funny. Did he catch a cold? Or it's just old age? Although now it is not so important. On the eve of the family council, many people gathered near the Feng family's huge estate. They are probably distinguished guests. They came for a reason. The gray-haired man in the raincoat folded his hands in a welcoming gesture and said, "Yuanji pays his respects to the head of the family." Feng Yuanji is a relative from the sideline of the family. He retreats to the side. A girl with blue hair approaches the head. She bows. "Family head Feng Mingju, the first daughter of the side family, welcomes you, sir." Feng Mingju is a very beautiful and sweet slender girl of short stature. She has plump lips, thin eyebrows, and large lavender eyes. She is somewhat similar to Wuxi. Wuxi, who is also present at the meeting, leans over to her maid and says, "She is so young. How can such a person be a leader among the younger generation?" Hong Yin smiles. "Madam Feng Mingju is a year older than you. She is the first daughter of the Feng family in Lin Chen. It is said that her cultivation level has surpassed that of Feng Wuxing." The dark-haired woman is surprised. A sly smile appears on her lips. Better than Feng Wuxing, the girl thinks. Interesting. Is this young girl stronger than the genius of the Feng family? Li Xiang says to Wu Shi, "Ma'am, when you were 6 or 7 years old, Miss Feng Mingju used to come to our house and take care of you. She also saved your life when you fell into the water. Have you forgotten everything yet?" Feng Mingju waved at the dark-haired man. "Long time no see, Wu Shi child." The girl runs up to her younger sister and hugs her tightly. Mingju is genuinely happy that Wu Shi has finally regained her senses. The girl notices the scars on her sister's face, clenches one hand into a fist and angrily says, "Feng Wuxin, you devilish girl. Has she bullied you again in the past 2 years? Don't be afraid, I'll help you teach her." Wu Shi looks somewhere with wide eyes. Frankly, she is amazed that she has a real sister who protected her as a child.